it when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman.
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to do better, be better, recover from the flu faster. In Jason's case, just everything about their life better. And our Friday morning show brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. You can go to Firekeepers this weekend. You download the app. They're great promos. It's user-friendly. It's at your fingertips all the time. But you can also go to Firekeepers. Go to Dacey Sportsbook and Tap House this weekend and take part in their Dacey Sportsbook cash giveaway. The drawings will be Tuesday. But if you make a bet of $250 or more on a college basketball game this weekend, if you go there Saturday night, watch the Final Four, enjoy the Sportsbook experience, you can be in the running for $3,000 in cash all the way down to just getting your money back in sixth place. Some great stuff at Dacey Sportsbook there at Firekeepers. Jason, how you doing, man?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing good. Still draining some shit out of here, but it's good to be back. How are you, man?
It's good to have you.
Happy April Fool's Day. Have you done an April Fool's joke yet?
I haven't.
Everybody loves those.
Nobody does.
No?
No.
You know, when I was a kid, I used to do the one where I used to tell my mom that that our car tire was flat. I thought that was hilarious.
Did it
I
ever
was like
get
17. Yeah, I got her like the first year. Then I kept trying to do it.
So what?
She'd forget. But.
What did she What did she do when you did the?
Well, after the first time, she just called me an asshole. So that was pretty much it. But yeah, happy April Fools, man. What is up with this weather? What's happening here?
We doing weather stuff at the beginning? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Just doing everything.
Yeah. No, it's
I'm on cold medicine and Skymint, so
excellent. No, it's
thank you, Skymint.
Yeah, it sucks. You know,
I'm telling you, it's a lifesaver. They have this stuff called tincture, right, at Skymint that you can get because obviously when you feel like garbage, you can't smoke it. You really don't feel like edibles, kind of. So it's a little dropper that you drop a couple droplets underneath your tongue, and you have an appetite and all that stuff. So, thank you, Skymint.
And you lost some weight too, man. Right,
dude? I lost like 15 pounds.
That's incredible. We all need the flu.
I wouldn't wish this upon anybody.
Yeah,
except maybe a few.
Yeah, we could pick some people out.
But yeah, it's been wild. So,
well,
good to be back.
Yeah, it's it was funny because things would happen throughout the week. We were off, and I'd be like, I was going to talk to Jason about this, and you realize how much our daily lives are used to doing this with each other. Like I tell my wife about something, she'd be like, "Why the fuck do I care?"
Yeah, it's. I heard you did 2 shows without me. What's up with that? I wasn't told.
We didn't really want you around here.
I don't blame you, but I was like, wow, I'm watching the show. Facebook Live.
My morning text was like, "How you feeling?" Complete ass.
Oh,
like,
man.
I was like, okay.
It's really brutal because you just sit there and you just drain out of every orifice. It's not fun.
How'd Therese take it?
Oh, she stayed away from me. Like I told you, I got a preview of what it's like to be married. It's just she doesn't touch me anymore.
Yeah, no, it's
Don't
like
blame her.
It's like having the flu for 40 years. It's bad.
She's on a weekend with a girls' trip before the wedding kind of deal, bachelorette party. So she's away from me finally. So hopefully I get better and we can get rid of this shit.
Yeah, well, you sound a lot better, and that's good. And it's it's good to be back. It's good to be doing these. We're going to do a Twitter question show today. We got some great stuff from you guys. We apologize for being off for a few days, and it didn't wind up being a horrible time to be off. I mean, there were some live lines and things that I wanted to give out,
but this needed to be like July.
Yeah,
2 weeks, no one gives a shit. Right?
Right.
There's nothing really going on.
Right. There was enough that it was like
college basketball and all sorts of stuff that's going on.
Yeah, there was lots of good stuff, and that's the beauty of the Twitter questions, though, is that people sort of remind us where their heads are, and we'll get into all that. Before we do, as we always do on our Friday show, what we're betting, presented by our friends at Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook. Download the app today. Play the games this weekend. Make your bets on Cade Cunningham for Rookie of the Year. Make your bets on whatever is.
Did you give that? Did you tweet that out, or did you mean to tweet that out? Because Alex Heward and yourself, we were talking about that.
No, somebody else did, and
smart.
And yeah, and
no one texts me at all.
Well, and the line had already dropped, so I didn't jump on it. So somebody apparently one sports book had it at minus 2,000, or sorry, plus 2,000. Minus 2,000, no value. Plus 2,000, very late in the game, which is tremendous value. And again, he may not win Rookie of the Year, but it's all about value, and it's still at plus 700 a lot of places. So hunt around. Find the value you can, and that there's still, I think, value in that even if he doesn't win it, as long as it's above like plus 400.
Because there's 1 week left, right?
Yeah.
And he impressed Kevin Durant, kind of a national spotlight on Cade Cunningham a little bit.
Yep,
I guess.
And he was great last night against Phil.
Why not sprinkle? Yeah. Right.
It's gonna. Yeah. I mean, if anybody's watching these games, it would be. You're seeing.
Is your bet done? By the way, the over under, right? Are you done for Pistons total?
No. So here's the thing with the Pistons. I've got this over-under with the Pistons, as some listeners do. Some got it at 23 and over 23.5 wins. You're really still in play. I've got it at 24.5. The Pistons have to win 4 of their final 5 games to do it. And that sounds impossible, except there are all sorts of weird dynamics at play. First of all, the Pistons are covering, I think they've covered against 14 straight playoff teams. They won last night outright against the Sixers. And the other thing that's interesting is there are all sorts of things. Like the Sixers last night, I think it was Bill Simmons who pointed this out. Nobody wants the number 2 seed and to potentially be matched up against Brooklyn. Sixers weren't going to win that game. There are all sorts of weird dynamics. Their last 2 games of the year, again, are against like the Sixers in Milwaukee. Who knows who they'll be playing at that point going into the playoffs, if they even care, if they want. You know what I mean? Like this could actually happen if they win their back-to-back Friday night against Oklahoma City. I think there's a small chance they get to that 4 wins just because they're playing motivated, they're playing well. And the teams they're playing are in that sort of end-of-year don't give a shit.
So you're saying the 76ers were tanking last night? Or they're just ass?
I'm saying they
weren't really trying.
I'm saying they didn't care about winning.
True.
They didn't.
So that's James Harden every game.
It didn't provide great value. All right. So what are you betting presented by Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app?
Well, college basketball hasn't kicked my ass enough this year, Graham. So why not? Let's bet tomorrow night. Or tomorrow during the afternoon. I like the under 132.5 Villanova, Kansas, and North Carolina. I know it's it should be a stay away, but I just think North Carolina's playing too good of basketball and give me 4 and a hook against Duke. I love it.
You love the 4, yeah.
So I'm parlaying those. $50 pays 178.46.
That's a pretty good play. I'm all over Kansas at 4. If you can buy the half point, do it to get down at 4. But I'm all over Kansas at minus 4.5 against Villanova.
Speaking of Kansas, I am the only one in my buddy's bracket pool out of 30 entries to pick Kansas. So all I need for them to do, I think, is win the whole thing. But I was completely out of this until Kansas started doing this. So
you've got you're one of those bracket pools where the championship pays like 30. It pays like all the points, and it doesn't really matter.
You know what? I never look into it because I never usually win these things. So maybe I need to look into it this afternoon. I don't know. I just need Kansas to win.
Figure out why.
Hand me whatever money you want, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I am all about Kansas against Villanova. Villanova's got a bad injury to the leading scorer. I think this is a sort of a plucky. They're better than plucky, but I think Kansas is a better team, and Villanova's has run as far as it's going to go. This is not the Villanova national championship team of certain years past.
Well, let me ask you: is Jay Wright underrated as a coach?
I think he's properly rated. People think he's one of the best coaches out there.
Okay, I just don't really hear about him. Maybe it's the Izzo factor that drowns out Jay Wright talk. You don't really hear about Jay Wright talk. I know you and Quinn probably sit there over beers and 69 about it, but you don't really hear the national spotlight talk about Jay Wright, and you look at his record. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, it's incredible. Except I would argue this, even though he's had the 2 national championships, which changes everything. We talk about Izzo. If they win it in 2014, right, it just changes everything. Or they win it one of these other times that they had a chance. Because Jay Wright, until these last couple years, did not get out of the first weekend 8 of 10 years. Like, you talk about Izzo frustration, but you know what?
That's Brad Underwood level.
Those 2 other years he won the national title. So people go, oh, what? Yeah, okay. And so that it really is sort of, it's, I don't know, it's, that to me is, yeah, I mean, it speaks to what that does for you and how we think of March. And you can overrate March. Like, John Gross got the Illinois job despite never really doing shit at Ohio except having a backcourt that got hot, and he had incredible talent, but they were the 9 seed in the MAC that year in the MAC tournament. Beats Michigan, beats Georgetown, Illinois hires him. You're much better off as a program hiring a coach who has consistency in their league than the one run. But, again, we think of March, and if you win a title, that's something, because that's really, as we see here, hard to do. Okay, what I am betting this weekend, other than that, I got a Premier League bet for you.
Knew it.
Yeah. It's not – there are 2 bets. There's a parlay. Liverpool minus 880 at home against Watford.
Minus 880?
Hold on. It's part of the parlay. Manchester City at Burnley, minus 471. And Chelsea at home against Brentford, minus 309. This is coming out of the international break. Some guys will be tired. The Chelsea one makes me slightly concerned, but not a ton. $100 pays 80. So that to me is a really good all 3 results should happen. Feel great about the first 2. I also, and I don't like to take Brighton, but at home against Norwich minus 1, I kind of like it. I think there's a real chance it's 2-0. Either way, you get your money back if it's just 1-0. So that would be, those are my my plays for the week. I'm sure Jason's on them and fired up for the return.
Minus 880.
Hey, man.
Jesus.
And that stuff can go wrong. Trust me, there was value on Costa Rica the other day, and I hope people got it. And sometimes it pays to be anti-patriotic when the U.S. national team is playing a game.
And people wonder why I think soccer is ass. The USA team celebrating after losing 2-0 for getting into the World Cup.
They weren't celebrating, but they got in because they put themselves in a spot where they just had to lose by fewer than 6 goals.
All right.
So, all right, let's dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions. You ready?
Yeah, man. Eric Schultz up first. Max Christie went the bulk of the year unable to shoot, and it caused him to go from a projected lotto pick to a clear returner for next year. Are we lucky that he had this type of year, so he's now back for round 2 with a better backcourt, or could his shooting woes extend into 2023?
Both can be true, and this isn't to Graham Stout it right out of the gate. But what I mean is, yeah, like there's a chance that players aren't what you think they are. Now, I still don't believe that with Max Christie. I think when you watch his shot and you watch his, because I was really big on Gabe Brown earlier. Brendan Quinn, for example, was even bigger on Gabe Brown earlier. Like early in his career, talking about freshman year, coming out of Moneyball, like what that guy would develop into. And he wound up being a good, solid player, but never the frontline player, headliner that you thought. And he's got a chance maybe to get drafted if he performs well at the combine and things late. But yes is the answer to the first part. Michigan State is lucky that he didn't have Max Christie. If he was going to be a top 20 pick and he had the year with a little more consistency, I believe he'd be gone. I believe he'd want to go pro because a couple things happened. One, I don't think he enjoyed every aspect of this year. I think it was a tough year. It was a grind on him. And I think there was a time in this year, even later in the year, where he was thinking about going pro. I think ultimately he's a smart guy who will assess his situation and be back.
But if he was a top 20 pick, though, the Michigan State team obviously would have been different, right? And we saw glimpses of what that team could have been.
The NBA still drafts a lot on potential. But
I'm saying as a Michigan State fan, if he played well, I wouldn't have cared because that meant that the Michigan State team as a whole was doing a lot better than what they did.
Yes and no. I don't think this particular team, even with Max Christie 25% better, is competing for a national title. That said, they didn't need much to beat Duke on that day, right? So it wasn't like they're that far away from a team that's in the Final Four. So you can argue the other way with that. I just think next year's team, depending on what they're able to secure inside and what they become as a team, in the interior, has a chance to have a higher ceiling, and that's because that includes making sure you have Max Christie as part of that fold, which he hasn't said. It's a weird spot because he hasn't actually said he's returning, but he's also doesn't have to. Like we're in a day and age where the idea that you have to say, like, if you're a freshman who's not projected to be a first-round pick, why would you have to say anything? Like, yeah, next year's my sophomore year. Why would I go anywhere?
Where are you going?
The flip side of that is people want to know, and you haven't said anything, and people and so it will be interesting to see. Like, all the coaches right now are down at the Final Four this weekend. I think there'll be a lot more movement on things starting early next week, and in certain realms like this in the transfer portal, and with players sort of saying what they're doing, and there seems to be a pecking order at Michigan State. Guys, Gabe Brown said his bit. Marcus Bingham now has said his bit publicly about not coming back, and that was where that was sort of heading for a little bit. Just at the end of the season, I was kind of told there's not much chance on those guys. But they have said it. They've made that decision because there was always that small possibility that Marcus Bingham gets in a room with Tom Izzo, right, and something changes. You know what I would do if I were Michigan State? I would make a call to Travion Williams.
Don't coach my team.
I know he said he's going pro. He said he's not going back to Purdue. He's not a great pro prospect by most draft boards, but he's a hell of a college player. And if you
love Travion.
You look at the way he passes the ball, the stuff you could play through with him and that roster next year, I just think the fit would be tremendous. Now, he is not an unbelievable defense. He's not like a guy who's a true defensive stopper, but he's not awful defensively. He's not awful. And if he's in the best shape of his life, and that's what you have to convince him to do, because last summer he did not get in the best shape of his life. That's part of the reason they didn't try to play the two big guys together. It just didn't work. But I would make that call. You wanted him once. Maybe you convince him. Give it one more go. Different roster, different program. See if you can elevate your pro stock, and if not, you can go make a crap ton of money.
And
in
the
Europe.
second call should be to Ishbia and be like, "Can I get $100,000? Give it to Travion Williams."
Or a lot of these transfers, right? Ishbia should just be working the portal. Absolutely.
Bo McJunkin's up next. On message boards, it was mentioned that the postseason exit meetings would be extra important between Izzo and certain guys this year. Any idea why?
Well, I don't know. I did not read. I don't read message boards that often. But
No?
but I'm not going to poo-poo message boards here because I'll say this is somebody who's been covering college hoops and football for a while. There are often people on message boards who do know shit. You just have to decipher who's real and who's not. And in the days that I was like working the beat, 15-year-old sneezes who may recruit, I got to sit down and write a story. Those days, I did a lot more of it and tried to learn people and learn who was plugged in and who wasn't. I do think that there will be I think there are important conversations every year, but more so now that the guys can leave without deterrence. I think the Max Christie postseason press conference is important. I think the Malik Hall, and I don't think Malik Hall is going anywhere, but I think those are important conversations to have about what you want out of your career. Where people stand. The one thing about Izzo is he'll have frank conversations with guys both ways, and not be offended. But I don't know that there's anything specific beyond that with a certain guy. Like, is it Max Christie? And that's what I think people are kind of alluding to.
Well, speaking of, Bo McJunkins with this one. More on weird rumors. Should we be worried about Max Christie leaving for any reason other than the NBA draft?
I don't think so, because what I had heard late in the season was, that if he left, it would be for the draft. He would be going pro. And so unless something's changed really recently, I doubt that would be the case. I don't think this
what
is
would
the
have
easiest year
changed,
for him.
though, for him to go to the NBA draft?
Well, no,
This doesn't make any
go
sense.
somewhere else.
Right.
Like, you don't have to sit out. Like for example, if you wanted to go spend a year at Northwestern or play for a different coach, you watch Davidson's offense and you said, "Hey, I want to be part of that." I don't think that's ultimately what will happen.
His mom played for Northwestern. Did you know that?
I did. Oh. Maybe he'll go to Jaden Reed's middle school and play there next year. I don't. Until you hear from Max Christie, I wouldn't say in sort of his camp that you know what he's going to do next year. I think it would be a huge mistake for him to leave, because there are certain guys where if you're objectively looking at something, you can be a fan of a team and you can say, you know what, I don't know if he can get a lot more out of college. Xavier Tillman wasn't going to be drafted any earlier than the early second round. But you could look at him and go, what more is that guy going to do in college? Like, that's who he's going to be. The NBA is going to take him whenever he goes about here, and he's going to have to develop from there at the NBA level. Max Christie's a guy who the lack of consistency in shooting and the strength. Now, the strength, the NBA would say, we can add that ourselves. But I think showing that you can be a guy. Like, look at the Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis, Jaden Ivey guys. Look what they did for their drafts. Those guys are all top 10 picks. There's a you can make that jump, and I think he's a guy that ultimately is wise enough to realize another year in college could
so
make
long
his life
story
better.
short, he's not going anywhere.
I'm not saying that.
I'll say it.
Okay.
I'll say it.
I'm just saying that I have not heard he's going anywhere.
I haven't heard anything. I'm just saying the smart move would be to stay. He's not going anywhere.
Okay.
John in the desert. Regarding A.J. Hogard, project his high and low development potential as a senior in the form of past Big Ten guards. Who could he grow to be like?
It's a good question. The comparison game. Dominoes falling right in the streets. Baby, this time. Yeah, somebody brought up the Andre Miller thing, and it was a Utah guard the other day. He's a bigger guard, Denzel Valentine and sort. Valentine was a little bit different player, but the one thing I would say with the Valentine you want to hope for, if you're hoping for the best for A.J. Hogard in Michigan State basketball, Valentine was an underrated reason that Michigan State did not win the national championship in 2000. The way their offense set up, not 2000, they won it in 2014, with the year Keith Appling's wrist was, I think, the primary cause. That year, Valentine wound up being the guy on the wing in the corner who got the ball a lot and shot a lot of open threes and missed a lot of them. I can't remember what he shot, but it was around 30% or thereunder for three. And he became a 45% three-point shooter as a senior. And it changed who he was as a pro prospect, and it changed who he was as a player and what it did for Michigan State. So there are guys who truly can take their shot to a next level. That's what you're hoping with Hogard. I do believe forget senior. You're looking at next year what this guy can be. The jumps we saw him take through the year from a guy that a lot of us didn't see is a starting point guard to a guy that people think could be the kind of the front man for that team were immense. And I think this is a big offseason for that. He's a guy who ought to come back next year, and he's just got to do it with consistency, and he's got to be in control, and he's got to come back. He's got a frame too. He's a Travion Williams guard is what he is. You got to make sure you stay in shape. You keep working that angle too.
Aaron up next. Do you think Izzo will land a big transfer this year? If he doesn't, how bad is this team going to be? And from Al, any update on a hoops transfers? What about 2024 point guard offer?
Yeah, the point guard offer is Darrell Brooks from Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Watched him play, just the other day. They played against Muskegon in the state final. It's an early offer for him, and I have no issue with guys getting on guys early. It's the biggest offer he's had to this point. Mostly MAC stuff, I believe. Young player, sophomore. But, think about the Tyler Ulises of the world. If you get in on that early, you've got a great player. It's smart. If you see a guy you like, an in-state guy who's an hour away, you don't sleep on that stuff. You build that relationship. You make that offer. You make it clear that that's somebody you want to have. And as we've seen before, they are not going to get stuck again without a point guard. They've made that very clear with Trey Holloman next year, Jeremy Fears Jr. the year after that, and the guys they now have in the program. They're not going to let that happen again. They learn from that mistake. To the earlier part of this, the big man transfer, and how bad are they going to be if they won't be bad if they don't get one. They just won't, I don't think, win anything of consequence. I'll give you an example. Iowa really this year did not have that guy. And they were the hottest team in college basketball for a while, or at least the hottest team in the Big Ten. And they just had a bad day. I still think they could have made a run, but I don't think they were going to win in the Final Four ultimately. I don't think they were the best team. I had them in my final, whatever, but I didn't think they were.
I was about to say, that's not what your bracket said.
Yeah, I know my bracket was ass. But so again, you can do it without it, but it changes. I think it changes your ceiling. If you can't defend ball screens well, you got to be mighty good offensively, and that's got to continue. So what happens to Iowa is they're this great offensive team that was improved defensively in a lot of ways, but when they had a really off day shooting the ball in that NCAA tournament game, they couldn't overcome that. And I wouldn't say they're going to be bad, but it limits who they can be.
Mojo Jojo, I know this comes up a lot, but what prevents Izzo from grabbing multiple 5 stars in a class the way Arkansas randomly did?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to do. It's recruiting, and you know, Musselman, the coach at Arkansas, is a very good recruiter. He's been a good recruiter. When he was at Nevada, he had those 2 4-star brothers, right? I mean, and twins or whatever. I mean, he's a good recruiter. He's a good coach. The thing I like about Musselman is he's a real good game plan coach. Like, you know, that's not the guy you want to face if he's got time to. Not the guy you want to face if he's got time to plan for you.
Next for Mojo Jojo, is MSU targeting Fardaz Amak, WAC Player of the Year, potential Bingham replacement?
I think he's looking elsewhere. My understanding, and I'm not sure if it's. I've seen a number of schools here in play, and I think it's down to a couple. I don't have them offhand, but MSU is not. I don't believe in on him.
Next for Mojo, what does Jaden Reed need to do to win the Biletnikoff next year?
So he's done the first thing. He's sort of known. So I'll give you a little insight on the Biletnikoff, Jason.
Okay.
I'm a Biletnikoff voter. You know how many times I've voted in the Biletnikoff Award?
0.
You know why?
Is it on your Twitter bio?
No. Because I don't. It's like the hardest thing to vote for. They send so many emails out. They're like, I don't know who the fuck any of these receivers are. Most of them around the country. I don't have time to watch them. I'm watching Michigan State every Saturday. Again, it's like the AP poll, but it's harder than even the Heisman because there are a million of these guys who I think there are even levels to which we're supposed to vote. I can't remember.
But if you took 5 minutes and you looked at the top 5 receivers in college football and you looked at maybe some videos of what they've done, you could probably come together, like get a vote together, right?
That's not a great way to do it.
It sure isn't. But neither is handing out Biletnikoff votes to other sports writers, thousands of sports writers that don't give a shit.
Well, yeah, that's why I just don't vote. I figure if I'm not doing anything irresponsible, I just don't contribute. And they keep sending me the ballot. You'd think after year 7 they just stop including you. There's like thousands of us, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we need you at the AP top 25 like basketball. That's where we need you, and they don't want you.
But again, it's a name. It's a name. They don't. It's not that they don't want me.
Oh,
they wanted me for 4 years.
Right,
double the usual term.
I missed that part.
Moved on. It's like they don't allow. They don't allow people to be president after their term. It would be like this. If Joe Biden was president for 16 years,
oh boy,
double what anybody else is allowed to be president, and then people would go, why aren't you still president? They don't want you. That's what it would be like. I was double the term allotted. In other words, yeah.
Good analogy.
Yeah, thanks.
Love that.
Yeah, there you go.
Miss those.
No, anyway, the Biletnikoff Award, though, again, it's name recognition and then having a good year in big moments. And I think he's got a chance because unlike a year ago, I think he's nationally known now. And I think so you got to have a big year. You've got to put up some numbers, and you've got to have a couple games that are seen in national moments. And like with Kenneth Walker, sometimes they have to come late. Like Kenneth Walker had his moment on October 30th, the Heisman moment, and by the end of November, other people were in that, So it's about timing, it's about name recognition, but coming back and being a known commodity is a big part of that.
Alex James up next. Which would the MSU basketball fan base rather have in 2023? A Big Ten title or an Elite Eight appearance? Cannot choose both.
What do you think?
I would go Elite Eight.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't know. For me, it's March.
So
it's what you do there. Elite Eight.
I think there are 2 reasons. I think this is different. This could be different if it was a different period of time. If Michigan State had not won a Big Ten title for 10 years and was coming off like a couple Final Four appearances, and you were telling somebody they were going to be stopped short of the Final Four, you'd always choose the Final Four, obviously, but they were going to stop short of the Final Four in heartbreaking fashion in the Elite Eight, or they could, lose in the second round but win a Big Ten title, and they had just won a national title. They'd been to multiple Final Fours, and they just hadn't been able to get a Big Ten title, and that had been something that had been eating at them. You might choose differently. But they're just a couple years off winning 3 straight of these things, right? And so what they have, it's the tournament run you want, and they haven't had those. So I think without question, it's the Elite Eight.
Next one from Alex James. Did you know there were players in this NCAA tourney who had been a 5, 6, even 7 schools? The fuck is that? And half of them apparently at Kansas at one point. Is that true?
I mean,
7?
There are a couple 7-year. Seven. I don't know if it's 7 schools. I think it's 7-year guys.
Okay.
I think it's like 4 schools.
He has to be talking about years.
Yeah, but the point is the transfer portal is. I mean, you're seeing these veteran teams like Texas Tech, Miami. These teams were just laden with transfers, right, and old guys, and that's how they made their run. And you're going to see some of that. And I mean, I don't hate it with guys late in their careers. The multiple transfers thing, though, will go away, I think, a little bit. COVID allowed some more movement without punishment. I'll be very curious to see because I think the NCAA is going to try to, and we'll see if this happens, if any rules are allowed to be there anymore, but they're going to try to stop people from transferring twice. The idea is you get one transfer for free, but you definitely have to sit out. And that, I don't,
That's fair.
And I've had people tell me, I don't know how you feel about this, that one guy said he doesn't like the NCAA tournament because he doesn't like watching 24-year-olds beat up on actual college kids. Like, what the hell is that? Because there's a difference between being 24 and being 19. There's a huge difference. And there's a little bit of an argument.
But you have
there.
to make coaches accountable as well, though, because that's the argument against the transfer for college athletes is that coaches can just leave whenever they want. So if you do something like that where the coach would have to have some sort of ramification where college players, I can understand. I agree with, if you transfer twice, you get one free chance to transfer wherever you want. Second time, you got to sit out.
Yeah, and I don't know if the grad transfer is included in that or not, because I do have different thoughts on the grad. If you're honestly going to grad school somewhere, maybe you ought to be able to play. If you still, the other thing that's changed is everybody got that extra year this time to use. That's not going to be there for forever. So you're not going to have all these guys who legitimately played 5 years of college basketball. The 7th year senior won't be a thing that happens post-pandemic. The transfer portals, I think at some point you're going to start to see, I'm not saying a recoil where there's not as many transfers, but you will see a little bit. The evidence and data is going to come out about how many of these guys get left in the lurch, how many of these guys it doesn't work out for, how many guys are making a mistake, how few transfers are acting. But the problem is that the ones we see in March are guys that all worked out for. If you're on that Miami roster and you're playing in a Sweet 16, Elite 8, or whatever it is, and you're starting there and you transferred in, that worked out for you pretty well. And kids should have a chance. You should have a chance as a 20-year-old who's been at a school for a couple years and you don't love your situation or you want to play at a higher level, you want to do something else, you should have the ability to do that. Now, the question is whether you should have to sit out, because sitting out doesn't always hurt you, but that genie's not being put back in the bottle.
Alex James up next with this one. Bazooka time.
Bazooka time.
MSU football over under 8.5 wins. Detroit Lions over under 5.5 wins.
Bazooka time.
MSU football over under 8.5 wins. Before we do this really quick, Groovy Donuts has incredible March Madness donuts. If you're looking for through this Sunday, go to either Groovy Donuts location, and there are these little basketballs. You can get cream filled or non-cream filled light yeast donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com if you want to place an order ahead of time. You can also place orders for anything, like if you want to have golf ball donuts or something related to the Masters that's a little golf course, they'll do that for you. They'll do cool stuff next week. If you got a kid's birthday party, if you've got something with Easter going on, if you got anything, Groovy Donuts makes the gathering better. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order today. They got 2 locations, one on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamston. To the question about over under 18, I think 8.5 is the perfect line for MSU football.
Yeah,
I think it's absolutely perfect. I wouldn't touch it.
Too good.
Yeah, because I think that's about where it ought to be, and I think they'll be playing in the final couple weeks with that still.
I mean, it would depend on what kind of plus money I would get to take the over on that.
Yeah.
To bet that. Other than that, it's a fade. But Lions over under 5.5. I mean, last year, the way that they were winning games with a bare bone kind of product, I think I would take the over. Again, it would depend on what kind of money I would get, or plus money maybe on the over. But
so You download the Firekeepers iCasino Sportsbook app and fire the over on the Lions. To me, that is the Lions. Again, I don't. They're not trying to win next year, but first of all, there's 17 games. You have to remember that now. So there's more opportunities. And we'll see what they do in the draft. If they do something crazy with a rookie quarterback or something we don't expect.
And if it's an under, there's a big problem. So you might as well bet the over and hope for it, and it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right. Mother Tucker up next. Rube, glad you are back. Hopefully, I'm here. Let's keep chopping. I think everyone giving Eric Church a hard time for canceling is BS. Imagine this being MSU versus Michigan. Do you agree? How long before any of our pro teams are good and we have something to really get excited about?
So these were two questions. I forgot to split up, Mother Tucker. I apologize for that. So do you know the Eric Church situation?
I did read about that, yeah. I don't know who the guy is. A country singer, I guess.
Big
right?
country star, yeah.
Okay.
He had a concert sold out in Texas on Saturday night. That he didn't even go to North Carolina, which makes his argument a little less.
Yeah.
But he wants to watch North Carolina Duke, which I get. I get him wanting to watch that game.
Do you want him on stage when the game's going on, though? If I'm paying for a ticket,
right.
He's going to half-ass the show.
Here's my issue. I am a big logistics person. I'm the logistics person in the family. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who don't have logistical qualities and aren't able to have forward thinking. I would have seen this possibility. North Carolina wasn't predicted to go 0-28, 0-31, whatever in college basketball this year. I would have said, that's the Final Four weekend.
Right.
Maybe I'm not going to have a concert that Saturday night. Maybe I kind of might want to see those games. Who knows? I'm just not going to do it. You should know. I mean, I'm always thinking, I don't know. It drives me nuts because I'm somebody who does think ahead about that. I can see the problems. And my family won't even. They'll be, we should do this, whatever date this is. I'll be, no, that doesn't work because of this potentially here. Nobody else in my family sees it, and it drives me crazy. And he should have seen it, and I have zero sympathy for somebody who doesn't. That said, if he wants out of it, there's a way to make this right. A, you're going to reschedule. 2, you have to make right anybody who had any sort of travel cost, and you have to promise that. So if somebody can show now you should be able to get a flight voucher. You should be able to get a hotel canceled. But if there is something, you got to make that right. You can't cancel for this. You can cancel for being sick. You can have.
It'd be easier just to do the concert.
Right. You can have the Jason Nick flu, and that makes sense. But if you're missing for a basketball game, you can't cost anybody money. And then when you do the concert again, for all these people, it's free. That's the only way for me to justify being a logistical Nimrod, because that's what he is, and that pisses me off.
But why not have the concert at 1 in the afternoon? And if people don't want to show up at 1 in the afternoon or their travel plans are screwed by that, then yes, then you get some sort of compensation for that. But you're right, though. You have to foreshadow. If you're that into the Final Four, you have to take it off and the national championship game on Monday night.
It's on the schedule.
Just in case. Yeah, like football Sundays for me, they're off the schedule, right? Like any plans that you have going on, make sure they're not on a football Sunday. That's what I tell people.
December 25th is Christmas. Don't get surprised by it. If you want to have it off, plan for it.
See, but he's not so he's just a diehard UNC fan. He didn't go there.
Yeah, that's the problem. Right, he's an App State guy. Yeah, no.
Is he going to lose fans over this?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
would you if let's say Pearl Jam did some shit like that?
I mean, if Bruce did that to me,
yeah, Bruce. I think Bruce can do that though.
Yeah, Eric
the boss.
Church,
where are you going? You're not going anywhere, Bruce fan.
Eric Church is not
Eric
Bruce.
Church. I've never heard of the dude. So
he's a big deal.
I understand. I'm not into it, but
yeah, he's
the boss can do whatever he wants.
So the question is the second question: how long before any of the pro teams here in Michigan are good and we have something to really get excited about
this year? Tigers.
Yeah, and like the Tigers are. I've been paying attention to the Tigers over under. By the way, which you can bet on the Firekeepers iCasino Sportsbook app. I've seen it 77.5, 78.5. If you can get it 77.5, do it. I wouldn't take the under because I don't want to root against them anymore. I don't know about you, Jason, but to me, I'm kind of done with the days. I don't want to have. Here we go.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
See, I want to come out of this and be like, another win yesterday.
Yeah.
And we won money.
I do not want to be rooting against the Tigers all year and some miserable prick just because I got to win a few $100 at the end of the year on a season wins under bet.
After betting Duke in the first half against Michigan State -2.5, I'm never doing that ever again in my life. I learned my lesson. It was complete ass.
It's no fun.
No.
It's no fun at all. And the Tigers, I've read enough that a lot of people think when you start to look at the rest of the division, that's what you have to keep in mind. The White Sox are probably going to be really good. The rest of the division is no better than the Tigers or worse. So there are going to be a lot of games they play this year. I mean, and who knows? They could have had that great run last year where they were gritty and things got going, and they could still be a year away, and we could be wrong. I'd rather lose money and bet the over and enjoy the year trying to get there. Like, I don't regret the Pistons bet at this point. It's been kind of fun down the stretch here. They're still alive. I was on the right side of the bet, by the way, because you had to know at this point it's close enough. You had to know Kelly Olynyk was going to get hurt early for a long time to have won this bet. And you couldn't have known that. So if you
know that, you should go to Vegas.
Right. And so you're wrong if you win it. You're an idiot if you win it. You're a fucking moron if you win it. Sorry. The Pistons, sorry. And if anybody I like actually won it, I apologize. I didn't mean it. But I think this year, and I think the Pistons next year, the Pistons are going to get a good draft pick. They look like a team that's ready to, like, you got to think next year they're going to be in the conversation for the postseason, just based on what we're seeing right now and the way Kate
everyone
Cunningham's
makes
playing.
the play-in tournament or whatever the hell's going on.
And the Red Wings for a while were, I don't know, they're not playing well right now, but they were in the hunt for a minute. They may not be that far away. So I think it's closer for a lot of things than we think. And we get to sort of enjoy the rise in this state, which you don't always get. This was, you're going to get some years in other sports that are kind of like Michigan State football was last year. It's that out of the blue excitement for something, and it may not be 8-0 starting, but the initial rise is fun. It's fun. You don't have to win a title initially because you get to the point where we got with the Tigers in the old area, and you got the Pistons in the mid-2000s, where anything less than a title feels empty, and that's part of the process too, and that's cool, especially if you win a title, but there's something about those years where, getting to the playoffs, getting to the second round, doing something new is fun, and you don't have to win the title. There's something cool about that.
And for the younger people out there like Gavin Haas, as two older guys like Graham and I, do not take it for granted when your teams make a run, because I did, and I'm desperately searching for another team, right?
Yeah.
So don't take it for granted. Kurt Wisniewski, why the hell are Scum fans so triggered regarding Kaepernick and him captaining the Michigan spring football game?
I didn't really.
Take a wild guess.
I know the story. Yeah, I mean he played for Harbaugh. I don't really have I don't have an issue with it. It's a spring game. Who the fuck?
I'm not a Kaepernick guy, but man, that's balls on Harbaugh. And it's great on Twitter just why, because I never usually do this, but watching Michigan fans kind of melt down after they announced that Kaepernick was going to be there, and at halftime going to do a throwing exhibition with NFL receivers.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
So I have to watch the spring game now.
That is true. That is true. The halftime, at least.
No, I got to watch the whole thing.
Yeah,
start to finish, pregame show, everything.
I don't even know when Michigan is. The Michigan spring game this weekend?
I think it's tomorrow.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, it's early. Wow. Well,
yeah.
not great weather. We'll see what tomorrow is. I don't know.
Kurt Wisniewski with this one. Who's Davion Prim, and why did his name cross my eardrums this week? Is he the next Kenneth Walker?
So he is certainly the running back that is getting the most buzz, and that's out of the coaches. Like we don't see squat. They have practice. It's not. They have practices open for 30 minutes, but it's drills, and you can kind of see pecking order and stuff. But you don't see like the team drills, the 11-on-11 stuff where you get a real sense of things. But Prim is the name that they're. I mean, and coaches have to know. Like it does him no good if all of a sudden you're bringing up guys who aren't ready to be good players, who aren't ready to stand out. And so that to me is, I think a positive sign. There a couple things. One, the offensive line is a little beat up right now. I don't think the spring game is good. It's never a great gauge of offensive lines because they'll rest a lot of guys. If you split the line up, and I don't think they'll do that, they're not going to do a true game. Then you got less on that line. But you're looking for a guy to give you some pop back there. Mel Tucker said something recently, and I'm going to have a story on Mel Tucker coming next week, middle of the week online, Sunday print. But he said something interesting on his opening spring ball presser. You need 3 or 4 playmakers on each side of the ball, he said, to really get somewhere. And I've heard coaches in basketball have always said, hey, you need 3 guys rolling to really go. That's an adage that's sort of a true thing. If you got 3 guys going, you can really make a move.
You need athletes.
Athletes. But I've never heard a football coach say that about the playmakers. And to what degree, I think that matters how far you go. If you've got 3 or 4 Charles Rogers, you're in really good shape if they're that next tier down. But Kenneth Walker was certainly one of them last year. They need to get to a point, if they're going to compete for Big Ten championships and playoff berths, they need to get to a point where they have 3 or 4 bona fide dudes on both sides of the ball. That's what it takes. And, we've all seen it at Clemson, at LSU in their best year. We've seen what that looks like. And so can Prim become that guy? That's what they're looking for, and he's the guy that they keep bringing up. So we'll see if he's in that running back room, the guy who emerges.
Clint Bainey up next. Who will be the Spartans' starting 5 next year? In order.
All right. A.J. Hoggard. Give me Max Christie, Jaden Akins. Well, either way, 2 or the 3. I put Akins at the 2, Christie at the 3, whatever. Malik Hall at the 4. And again, we don't know who's coming into that program at the 5, but right now you'd have to say it's Julius Marble. And I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in a transfer, unless it's an obvious guy that's been a star somewhere, really, that Marble starts the season as the starter anyway. You want to pay respect to the guy who's put in the time, who's a really good player, and against certain matchups at least. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in fact, I would expect that starting 5 next year if you ask me right now.
Next one from Clint. Who will be our first and second string running backs next year?
So Prim sounds like the guy. It's a great question because I think there are guys who I'll tell you, I don't think it'll be Joyner. I don't think it'll be Elijah Collins. I kind of root for Elijah Collins because I think he's been through a lot. He's stuck it out. I think he was a really good teammate last year, and I'd like to see him have a decent end to his career. I just don't sense that's going to be what happens. Is it Jalen Berger? I don't know, but I would guess Prim is one of those 2 guys just based on all the chatter about him not coming from just inner working, but coming straight from the coaches.
Next one from Clint. Rube, did you shart yourself in the presence of your fiance while you were sick? That can be a deal breaker. Well, thankfully, Clint, we have a bathroom like in our bedroom. So at this age, every fart is kind of a coin flip. So I usually just go into the bathroom and let it fly in there just in case anything happens. No, I didn't do it in front of her.
And I think this was, I shouldn't say who it was because I wasn't there. This is definitely a secondhand story. But a former writer said you get to a certain age and you never pass a bathroom without using it, and you never trust a fart.
That's true. And
those are the 2 things that change. You get older. Now, he was older than we are now when he said that, so I'm hoping I got a little time before it.
So Jack Ebling then?
It was not him.
No.
It was definitely not him.
Doug Warren, have you ever been slapped? If so, please explain.
You go first.
I have. It was a buddy's wedding, and
this does not surprise me that it starts this way.
I tell you what, though, I didn't do anything wrong, to be honest. So my buddy's father paid for all the booze. He went to a liquor store and bought all the booze. So we were self-bartending and grabbing bottles of booze, and I was in charge of making drinks because his dad wanted to take the booze away at 10 p.m. So I was making drinks for everyone, having a good time. Everybody's excited. Well, there was a girl there that was in the wedding party who wanted to make out with some dudes, I guess. And she went up and she was asking me, pretty much, do you want to go hook up somewhere? And I was like, yeah, I just got to make some drinks here. And as I'm making a drink, she just hauls off and slaps the shit out of me, like Will Smith style. And I'm like, all right. And then I just went back to making the drinks. And then she went and made off with some other dude or made out with some other guy. So she slapped me pretty hard.
She did not like.
But I didn't do anything. I know people would think the Rube was doing something crazy, but yeah, I was just making drinks for my friends.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know that. I've been slapped. I remember. I don't know if it was an open hand slap or a punch. The time I've told you about in Chicago, where I was dating an Irish exchange student my senior year in college. Lived up on Pine Grove in Diversey, and I'm on the street there, and really hammered. and two guys are walking down the road, and I'm on the phone. I got my flip phone out. I'm on the phone with this Irish exchange student, and I'm like, "This
With your
2002."
wraparound Oakley's on.
And I said, "Shut the fuck up! I'm on the phone." They were talking, walking down the street, and the next thing I remember, I got struck pretty hard. I'm up on the hood of a car, and the phone is flown out in the street. I went and got it, and then immediately went up to the apartment and got my roommate and said, "Hey, this is what happened." And we went down and searched all the bars right nearby to see if we could find them. And to this day, I am so grateful we did not find them. Number one, I got my ass kicked the first time. What was I going back for? And
did you guys watch Boys in the Hood the day prior or something? You're like,
probably.
We got to get revenge.
That's probably what happens. This was like, we had seen Ricky get shot down the alley, and all of a sudden we were like, that's it.
Graham, you're Ricky, man. We got to avenge your slap.
That is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. New brunch item on the weekend brunch menu at Midtown Brewing Company. It looks fantastic online on their Facebook page. Bagel with smoked salmon. It is even better with a grapefruit mimosa. Like you can do mimosa flights there. They've got it just outstanding stuff. They've got a great expanding menu, brunch menu. Great way to start either weekend day at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. All right, back to your Groovy Donut Twitter question.
Chris Eastlick, the bearer of bad news. Am I right? Graham, what is Tom Izzo's offseason routine when it comes to assessing the season? How do you think he's handling this season?
So if there's a guy who's ever getting slapped right now, it's probably Chris Eastlick. It's like snowing on April 1st,
I always love blaming the weather guy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great.
They probably love it too.
What's up with this weather, Eastlick?
I would like the most popular segment. They blow this opportunity, I think. And Eastlick, listen closely here. I think if you did a minute every day or once a week, sort of like the bad beats, something, or where you went wrong on your prediction, why things weren't what you thought they were going to be on the forecast, people would all listen and we'd all like it and we'd all be more. I don't know. I just think we'd all get it, and I just
1 minute.
Well, you could just make it a segment, and you could even do it, stream it. You don't have to do it they might not give you the minute on the newscast. Although they give weather guys everything. They cut sports every. If
it's sponsored, you can do whatever you want.
Well, weather people are what drives a newscast. I mean, weather people get like 14 minutes in a 23-minute newscast. The sports gets like 30 seconds to say, "Hey, your Fowler boys basketball did this last night."
I've never understood that, especially now that we have apps. Like, no offense, Chris. I mean, I still watch weather people, but I don't need, do you really need 14 minutes of it?
I need all the Chris Eastlick I can have in my life. To his question, what is Tom Izzo's offseason routines when it comes to assessing the season? That's a good question. I mean, I think they do an introspection. They do sort of look at what coaches' meetings that he meets with each player, and I don't know what his exact is it Sky Mint or what helps him get in that mood, in that place. Do you just get a box of 12 groovy donuts and put them down at the end? You're like, you know what? I need a big man. But
you're just explaining what you do.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
No, what I don't know what's happening right now, and at some point, I think we'll not either hear from Tom Izzo or I'll just talk to Tom Izzo in the next week or so.
Don't coach my team.
Is what some of these conversations are, what's coming out of them. You're starting to see, obviously, it took a while for Gabe Brown and Marcus Bingham, even though they knew they were leaving, to really announce it. I think that happened after the meeting. I think that was out of respect of let's have the conversation. Let's sit down. All the coaches in the country are through Saturday night until Sunday morning at the Final Four. None of them stay for the national championship game. That's a little lesson, by the way. If your team ever gets to the title game and you ever want tickets to the title game, get a hold of college coaches, because all sorts of levels, they're down there for the convention. They all get tickets to the Final Four. And they only use them on Saturday night, so they're not used on Monday.
So I should text Izzo, see if he has tickets?
Yes.
Chris, with this one, will Elijah Collins be on the MSU roster in 2023? I know he's been banged up and has COVID, but doesn't seem like he's been able to break through again.
Yeah, I hope he is, because here's the thing about Elijah Collins: if he's not who he was, it won't be easy other places just to break onto the field. He plays a position where the drop-off at the Mid-American Conference and mid-major level just isn't that much. And now, I know for Ladarius Jefferson. It's worked out at Western Michigan, but it might have worked out at MSU if he stayed in that. So there are guys that will work out for to step down slightly, ever so slightly. But it's a good question what Elijah Collins will decide after the spring. And Isak had a second part of his earlier question. Do you think what Izzo's deciding centers around, do I think centers around the country have kept tabs on MSU's big man situation this year? I don't know that guys think that during the course of the season. I don't know. I mean, most big men probably think Julius Marble's coming back. Maybe they see Marcus Bingham's leaving. But it probably doesn't take long in a conversation for Izzo right now, Travion Williams maybe, or anybody, to say, we've got an opportunity here, and you could fit.
Last one from Eastlick. What was Marcus Bingham and Tom Izzo's relationship like? Sounds like they have grown closer, but there have been some suggestions that it may not have always been that way.
Yeah, I think it was a rocky 4 years at times. And what's interesting, though, is watching, and I'm not going to give Izzo credit for Marcus Bingham's development as a person, right? I'm not saying Izzo and his staff holding him accountable doesn't help, but people mature for lots of reasons, and they're raised by parents long before they get to campus. But Marcus Bingham, and I don't know exactly when this happened because last year was so weird. I'm talking the COVID year where everything was on Zoom. I didn't have a single conversation with him that wasn't, on a Zoom camera with like 15 to 50 other media people. This year, though, he was so different than he was as a sophomore when I would have conversations with him in the locker room. He was so much more engaged, so much more confident, so much more self-aware, and that'll serve him really well. Like I don't doubt that Marcus Bingham thinks he can play in the NBA right now. I don't know if that's true, but I have a lot of faith that he can go have a pretty good life and a pretty good pro career somewhere, more than I did a couple years ago. And but I do think it was a struggle at times between those guys because what Izzo wanted for Bingham had trouble becoming.
Stan Schock, how much different is it covering a team when they're good versus bad? A lot.
Yeah.
It's fun when they're good. It sucks when they're bad.
It's not awful when they're bad.
Depends on the storylines, I guess, but yeah.
And it depends on, sometimes a team needs to be humbled. And sometimes...
I mean, imagine covering Georgetown, and they went 0 for the Big East or whatever.
Well, yeah, if it gets miserable, that's no good.
Right.
And if people lose interest, that's no good. But if enough people lose interest, say national folks or enough waddling TV folks from out of town or whatever it is, that you don't... When I say waddling TV folks, there's always these cameramen waddle in, get in the way. If you can get a smaller pool of people covering the team, it gets easier and better. And that sometimes happens. So that's the only real value of it. But it is different. I mean, people are... But sometimes the best relationships, if you're going to be on a beat for a little while, are built in those years. You get better conversations. They get to see whether you'll be fair to them or not, whether you're just reactionary, if you're still somebody who's traveling, who's on the road, even though a basketball team isn't as good or a football team isn't as good, that shows something about your organization that makes you a little more legit in their eyes. So there's value to those years, but it's a totally different tone for sure. And teams, certainly when they're really good and the circus sort of picks up and there's a lot of people around them, that's when it's important that you've been around, because that's when it's important. The only way you're going to get stuff that stands out is if you have those relationships.
Next one from Stan. Without having looked at futures, isn't Duke the clear-cut favorite at this point to cut the nets?
No, I think it's Kansas, because I think Kansas has the best chance to win Saturday. So if you're just looking at teams that, like, I think Duke-Kansas is probably a 50-50 game. I don't know what you think. You agree?
Duke-Kansas championship? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking at odds-on favorite, and hold on, give me some Hoff. I'll fire up the Firekeepers iCasino Sportsbook app here for this. Okay, so futures on the championship, for example. Right now, Duke is the favorite at plus 160, Kansas at plus 180, Villanova plus 475, North Carolina plus 500. I think the only real value here is North Carolina plus 500 and Kansas plus 180. This is on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app because Duke, plus 160 for a game. They've got to win 2 games that I think are 50-50. Kansas, I think, is going to win against Villanova and then has to win 1 game that's 50-50, so plus 180 has value. North Carolina has to win 2 games that are 50-50, but they're plus 500, so there's value. So
if you bet Duke, you have the refs on your side.
That is true. That is true. So, I mean, I don't think any of these things are. I think Villanova plus 475 is not a great line. I don't find value in that. I think North Carolina plus 500, Kansas plus 180 are the values that remain.
Andrew Gauthier, who are you pulling for, UNC or Duke? Would a Duke loss lose some of its appeal since UNC would be knocking them out, or would it enhance it?
I don't know that I care that much.
I kind of do.
Do you?
Yeah,
okay.
I want Coach K to go out with a loss against UNC.
Okay.
I really do. I mean, if I'm going to root, I have to pick a team.
Yeah. Coach K, huh?
Screw you, Rube. I'm winning this bitch.
Exactly what he's saying right now. Yeah, I don't.
In my mind, at least.
It's one of those things where I'll have to see where I've got a strange thing going. I have a lot of season futures bets. I can't lose. I actually got this really well. I have a futures bet on North Carolina that pays extremely well to win the national title. I have one on Duke that pays okay. And I have one on Villanova that pays pretty okay.
So if Kansas wins, you're effed.
No, so I just hedged it with Kansas to make sure I have basically the same payout everywhere as much as I can. North Carolina, I made that bet after North Carolina. You remember when they just trucked Michigan early in the year?
Yep.
I was, and their odds were still way. I think
you bet that early, huh?
Yeah, because I looked at the odds, and I think like a $25 bet pays like $7.20 or something like that. I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'll do that, whatever. So yeah, I bet all that stuff really early, and I happened to get. It's weird.
Isn't it great not having kids though? Then you have that income that you can just chuck at that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Do it now.
No, what's weird is if I had just looked at my futures bets and done my bracket with that, I wouldn't have been a moron, and I might have still been alive in the Couch in the Rube pool, and instead I'm not. And we should update that after the after
we can wait.
No, okay.
Next one from Andrew. How far do you think?
I was going to say we could update it after a break. We'll take a break in a few minutes, but we'll keep going for a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. How far do you think the U.S. team makes it in the upcoming World Cup?
If Stephen is still the goaltender, not far. That's got to change. That's the one thing the U.S. used to have with they used to have world-class goaltenders. Now they got guys who aren't even starting for their club teams, and Stephen looked like ass against Costa Rica. I am not a huge fan of his. They've finally got a young club that I think can make a move. They've got to make sure they've got the goaltending situation better than it is right now.
Next one from Andrew. Graham, do you play Wordle?
I played it the first day, like Elizabeth in the morning, like we were just getting up. She was like, "Hey," and she played it for a little bit. I do not. I notice you do because I see a lot of people and you.
I play Wordle.
Out. Not you.
Oh,
Andrew. You do not play Wordle. I'm guessing.
No.
Yeah, that's not
what?
Not a surprise.
No one wants to see that. Next one from Andrew. Why is planning even a small wedding such a pain in the ass? God, I hope my in-laws aren't listening to this one.
We'll send this to them, Andrew. Yeah, no, it's always there's always a little bit. We had cousins who were vegan, which is okay, and their children are vegan. But it when you're like doing the meal stuff, it wound up being a little bit of a.
The kids are vegan too.
Kids are vegan.
Man,
that's rough. Rough to be a vegan.
What a
kid.
Shopping trip that must be.
Well, yeah, I just got to imagine school, different things.
Oh.
It's just rough to be a child vegan. It's like,
you know how many times I've said, why didn't we just get married in Vegas?
Yes,
since this whole thing started.
So I all these years later, I'm still torn on this. Like, it was an unbelievable day. It was an amazing wedding.
Yeah,
we had a lot of fun. But you're like, was that worth dropping? I don't know what we paid, $20,000, something like whatever it was. You're at the end of it, you're like, and which there are weddings that are a lot more expensive than that. But at the end, you're like, God, that was still. We could have done that for 10 times less if we went to Vegas, for sure. Although I would have put $18,000 on some, baseball game. And
Villanova.
Been down 20 grand anyway.
Last one from Andrew. Wasn't there some chatter about a Couch and Rube golf outing at some point? Would you guys be down?
So here's my thing with this. One, I'm not a great golfer, but I don't care about that. I just don't know if a golf outing is the best way to like fraternize with people because it's kind of you're off in little pairings, right? Like I don't know that golf
that's
outing.
perfect. And then at the end, you kind of have food and drinks with somebody, with a group, right?
What about?
See, here's the thing about us. We're pretty much down for whatever as long as we don't have to plan it or do any of that stuff. If it's like set up and it's Couch and the Rube
Like
golf,
show up.
yeah. Oh yeah, we're in.
If we've got to organize it, it's a little different.
Oh,
Yeah,
Graham wanted to do cameos for $2.50 of me doing Coach K voice or something.
Of
course, we're down.
I would be up for like a Hawk Hollow mini golf. You ever played Little Hawk?
Oh, absolutely.
It's great
all the time.
Like that seems like everybody's more in a group. That would be kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe that's not. Maybe
Are you
that's
just scared to look like ass when you're golfing?
No, I will. I'm not.
I mean, you
afraid
could
to
be
look
one of
like
those
that.
guys that you just sit at like the 8th hole and you just hit a drive.
Yeah, driving's
And
my
then
worst. But yeah,
All right, then you go to the 8th hole
and I'll put
and you chip or whatever you want to do. Jesus, what a diva!
I know.
Are we taking a break or what do you want to do?
Let's do Gavin and then we'll take a break.
All right, Gavin Haas. Why did you guys have to make my week so boring?
Apologies, Gavin.
Sorry, buddy.
This guy went to Vegas and picked up the plague. So
I'm surprised it's all I caught. I mean, with that many people around, it's wild.
yeah, and all the whores and everything. I mean,
Ladies of the night.
please.
Come on, show some respect. Gavin, why are the Tigers winning the World Series this year, and why will Akil Baddoo win AL MVP?
I would not put money on Baddoo to win MVP. I hope Baddoo was not lightning in a bottle. A lot of times these Rule 5 guys are. I'm a little, I hope he's legit and he's a very good player for them. And he's an exciting player because he is fun to watch. I mean, and he's clearly got that clutch gene, right? He's got a flair for the moment. I do think how many teams are in the playoffs this year? 26? I don't know. Whatever it is.
Everybody makes it.
Yeah, like it's the regular season. That's the other reason you have to bet the over-unders in the regular season for season wins. Is the regular season is now pointless. So you need to have money on it for there to be any reason. I mean, it's become the NHL, which is played pointless regular seasons for decades. And because anybody can win in the postseason, like in baseball, and so many half the league makes it. And so, I don't. But I don't think the Tigers are there yet. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope in October we're sitting here going, screw football, man. The Tigers are in the playoffs. I hope that's what's happening because that would be absolutely incredible.
Next, our last one from Gavin. How about an MSU football record prediction?
Give me
July.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
But if I had to do it right now, I would say 9-3. And it's a tough schedule. I think before the offseason has gone well for them. I think before this offseason I thought there would be a little bit of I don't want to say return earth because I think the program's going in the right direction. Just a year where they wouldn't have some things. But getting Jaden Reed back, getting the transfers that they brought in, that momentum still seems to be there. I think that culture's there. I think that's an extra win. I think even if it's not a truly blessed year, and it'll be tough with Ohio State early in the year and how that changes the dynamic, but give me Michigan State football 9-3. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Couch in the Room presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis and our friends at the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Sky Mint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Sky Mint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Sky Mint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Sky Mint Cannabis. You'll love this place. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com. Trust matters, especially when it's your money. Mark and Jay at North Coast Wealth Management work hard to build a relationship of trust by providing thoughtful, objective guidance and placing your interests first. Invest with knowledgeable financial advisors who are on your side. Call today and tell them you're a friend of the show for a no-cost, no-obligation consultation. 248-626-2000 and ask for Mark or Jay. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Find Couch and the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch and the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. You can also go to Firekeepers and take part in their cash prize giveaway right now, up to $3,000 for first place. If you go there this weekend to Dacey's Sportsbook at Firekeepers near Battle Creek, just off I-94. And if you put a $250 bet down on a single college basketball game, you'll be in the running for that drawing. And if you've never done the Sportsbook experience, I'm telling you, it's really cool. Jason just did it in Vegas. And you can get it without going to Vegas right here at Firekeepers in Michigan. And, Jason, before we move on, a Twitter question that came in late from our friend Michelle, maybe Meebe. Mm-hmm. Jason, do you regret the trip to Vegas?
No. Because, thankfully, the flu, it could have been a lot worse. It felt a lot worse. So, I don't know. We had a good time. A lot of college basketball watched. So, nah.
Even with the week of hell you went through after.
Yeah. Because I just don't want to diminish the Vegas trip, Like, I just don't want to be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I would have not gone there. But it was fun. We had a good time.
So I give you the option. You don't have to get the flu, but you can't go to Vegas. What do you choose?
I mean, I would go to Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah. I think.
You're thinking about, like, the worst moments of the last week right now.
Yeah. I mean, I did lose 15 pounds.
Right. No, I think it's a win.
I did miss some shows, but that sucked. But, yeah.
I would sign up for it. I would take the flu for 15 pounds.
It's still going on. I could give it to you.
Don't do that. You stay over there behind the glass. This is when we were doing this show. We first moved back in the studio or during the pandemic, because for a while I was doing the shows from home. I was like, this studio is built for the pandemic. Like, we're separated by glass. I'm like a bubble boy in here. Like, there's nothing. It's absolutely
isolated. Yeah,
it's great. Before we move on, the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook Couch and the Rube NCAA tournament pool. I am out of. The Rube has no chance to win, but some people near the top who have a chance. Cameron Macco and Ronnie Yair both are at the top and have Kansas, and so. I don't know who else Justin Seaman and Scott Nordley have. They're just behind with Kansas. So some people have Kansas, but the Max Christians, Matt Boone with Duke have a shot still. And then you go down to, I believe there are people with Nova who are ways down, but if Nova won the whole thing, Ben Grossman, Matthew Berta would have a chance to be in the conversation if that were to actually take place. Let's dig back into these Groovy on Twitter questions.
Jeff Haddis up next. Do you think MSU goes after the Mitchell brothers in the portal?
These are the Rhode Island kids. I have not heard that they are. I will have a conversation, I'm sure, with people in or around the program sometime next week and get a sense of where they are on some of these guys. I know they've been active. I know that. I know they've reached out to some guys. I have not heard the Mitchell brothers is part of that, of guys they've reached out to, but that doesn't mean they haven't. They're not, it's not like Dwayne Stevens is being like, oh, I just reached out to the Mitchell brothers. Hold on, let me text Graham and let him know. So that's not. It's not. We don't.
That doesn't happen.
Don't quite have that relationship to that degree where I'm up to speed. I wish I just had their phone log, like it was coming into my phone, like I was tapped in like an FBI guy. Like, oh, that's an interesting call from Izzo. Travion Williams.
Jeff with this one. How many transfers will Michigan State football have after spring ball? Line at 2.5.
Yeah, I'd put it over that. I'd go over.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys will sort of, because, you go into the fall, the season ends right before the semester. You kind of want to see where you stand. It's a tough time at the end of the semester to, some guys know they want to move and it happens quickly but I think for a lot of guys, spring ball is a chance to reassess, and I would put the line at 4.5, and I think you'll be right around there.
Yep. Even then, I might take the over.
Yep.
Jeff with this one. Any word on Keon Coleman or Malik Carr in spring ball?
I mean, both are taking part. Coleman, I know Wright was back at it. They were thinking about, did he need some time, and he was back almost the day after the Michigan State lost the NCAA tournament game. He's right out in the practice field. So he understands what butters his bread, so to speak. He wants to be a big part of things, and I think both guys will be.
Gluten Weasel. What would the Rube have to say for Graham to slap him and vice versa? Have you ever slapped yourself a la John L. Smith?
So I want to go back to another thing on the slapping question that Doug Warren asked earlier. I have a buddy, Scott Powers, who sometimes listens to this show, covers the Blackhawks for The Athletic. When we were in our 20s, we worked in Freeport, Illinois together. And best man at my wedding, great friend, talked to him sometimes twice a day, at least once. And when we were younger, out on New Year's Eve or out on a night and he was really drunk, that was his thing. He would smack you. Not out of anger. He thought it was funny. He would be giggling and smacking you. Ooh. I didn't find it fun at all. That was the one thing he's ever done in my life.
That's a fight starter, man.
Yeah, but he's the nicest guy in the world. You'd have to be a jackass.
I'm saying with other people, though.
Right.
If you're with him and he does that in other company,
Oh, yeah.
They don't know him or something.
Right. No, but he was pretty good about doing it just to his friends. I mean, we once got so hammered with we had the guy who was the basketball coach of the Catholic school in town in Freeport. We're over at one of our apartments, just belligerently drunk. We stay up till 6 a.m. The sun's coming out. We go to the park. We're going to play one-on-one against this guy who played D2 hoops. And he and I actually sweat it all out well in the day. But Scott Powers was so drunk, he took 2 dribbles and fell into the grass and then laid on a picnic table calling everybody in his phone at 6 a.m., which is always a smart move when you're just completely hammered at 6 a.m. on a Saturday.
What a great friend.
Yeah. So, story we're telling again, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. Also a good place to watch games. They'll have the NCAA tournament games on the big screen. Just an outstanding date place, and I can't stress this enough. It's a place that I've gone on dates for, gone on lunches for. Great work function place. Just outstanding menu, good beer selection, and my favorite drink there is the American Stout. If you like a stout beer, it's absolutely outstanding.
Jay Riemann.
To the question: have you ever slapped yourself like John L. Smith, and what would it take for me to slap you, and vice versa?
No, I've never slapped myself that I can remember. Maybe to wake up or something, or out of a drunken stupor.
It would take a lot for me to slap you because I don't know what.
Yeah,
that's not really my reaction.
Disrespectful to the wife or something. But I don't drink anymore, so that's not possible.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We would solve it.
If you would have slapped me at Cody's wedding, I would have understood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of situation, but that's not going to ever happen again. So, for me to slap you, if you make me tell another jail story in a parking lot full of people at a live event.
It's good to know.
No, I'm just
writing
kidding.
that down.
I'm just kidding. Jay Riemann Schneider up next. Why do you think it is MSU and Michigan can both be really good in basketball in the same year? There are numerous examples, but in football, they are like only 4 to 5 times in the last 40 years. This last year being one of them.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just the number of guys you have to have on a football team to be good, right? It's a bigger roster, and some of it I don't think has anything to do with each other in football. It's just that Michigan State wasn't that good for a long time, and I don't think Michigan got in that way. They just were unable to sustain it. I think that there are elements to certain years where Michigan got in the way. I think that's part of it was Saban's frustration when he was there, but not entirely. I mean, there's enough. And it's certainly there's more national recruiting than there used to be, which helps it now. But I do think in football it's a harder thing to both own the state and the area, the players you want, to get the right kids out of Detroit. Michigan is not a hotbed, but there's good players here, and you need to win enough of them if you're going to be elite. Whereas in basketball, as we saw with Beeline and Izzo, they barely ever went head-to-head, and they were both great at times. And so I do think that's you just need fewer guys, and you add 3 guys a year in basketball, 4 guys a year, and you can get them from everywhere, and especially in the way the AAU circuit works. Now, it used to be different. Again, you talk to Sadie Washington, who's just turned down the Western Michigan offer, according to Tony Paul at the Detroit News again, and the assistant at Michigan, played at Lansing Sexton. When he comes out of Lansing Sexton in 98, sorry, not 98, finished at Western 98, in like 92, 93, nobody was going to Xavier. Nobody was going to Wichita State or anything like that. If you didn't go to Michigan or Michigan State, you went to Eastern, Western, Central, right? Oakland wasn't even really a player at that point. So that they weren't, actually. They were still Division II. So it used to be very different, much more regionalized, and that's changed, which I think helps those schools not rely on the state so much.
Jay, with this one, Jason, does your Michigan friend, can't recall his name, ever participate in the hot takes or Twitter question shows? And Jason, could you ever or have you ever worn Michigan Wolverines gear? Oh, God, yeah. When I was a kid, I mean, the Fab Five, I mean, I was laced up from head to toe in Fab Five stuff. Jalen Rose, I had the short jersey combo. And I had this weird thing, like when I was younger, I don't know if this happened to you, Grant, but I just would root against whoever my dad's favorite teams were.
Okay.
So he was a diehard Michigan State guy. So, yeah, so I would root against him for a while, and then I outgrew that whole thing. So I have worn Michigan Wolverines gear. And my friend Jordan, yeah, he does participate. He's more of a guy that listens to the podcast and then messages me. He gives me like a live reaction, or his reaction, after we post the podcast.
So, and now I'm thinking that he did actually not do a Twitter question to the Twitter questions, but actually did. What's his Twitter handle? I think he did say something for this show, and it's not in the list here.
Douchemack something.
Yeah, I don't know. Jordan, I'm sorry if you did. It wasn't under the actual things. I don't think it was hashtagged or anything. But I've been the same. Like the 89 for me, it was more the 89 Michigan team with Glenn Rice and Ramil Robinson and those guys. Like I was 9 years old, 10 years old, and I remember I had these like long. There was a period of time in the late 80s where the things called jams. You remember those? They were like long 3/4 length shorts. Now they would call capris, and you wouldn't wear them. But
like Zubaz,
it's hard to describe. Anyway, but this is before you would wear like really, really, truly baggy pants, shorts. But they were like just below your knees, but tighter. I don't know, whatever they were. They said Michigan on them. I had them. I was all about that team. I remember cutting out little cardboard things that said like Michigan national champs '89, and like I was a nerd. I was
just in love with sports, so I just wore a bunch of stuff. And back in the day, that was the thing. Like I had an Iowa Hawkeyes hat with rhinestones on it that I glued on. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of terrible choices that I'm so happy that my parents didn't have Facebook and all the apps back then. Because all these parents that take just every single moment of their child's lives.
Some of my finger paintings are still up.
It scares me to think about that.
Some of my finger paintings are still up. Some of my best work with Ralph Sampson and Akeem Olajuwon in the 86 Houston Rockets still exist in the parents' house. So
put those on eBay.
Yeah, see what you can get for that stuff.
Next one from Jay. While in Vegas, Jason, did you hang out with any other podcast or sports radio hosts that we might have heard of? I'm assuming that you know some of them and that they were there, that there were a lot of them there for the tourney. Actually, I did. I ran into Rico Beard. My friend Jordan, who went with me to Vegas, he was kind of he had a slow morning, so I went down to Fremont Street to kind of grab us a seat at the Golden Nugget, and I had my headphones on and was just hanging out, and I was high as hell. And I was just hanging out, walking down in Fremont Street, and I knew Rico was there. Like, I saw him they were going to be at the D, him and Valeni, right? But I didn't text him or anything like that, and I run smack dab into Rico.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, so we talked for a little bit, and he was doing a show at the D in like 2 hours, him and Valeni up in their sports book. So anyway, so after that, my friend Jordan comes down, and we're walking through the D, and I see friends I haven't talked to in 10 years. Like, we had just that falling out, don't talk to, and I ran smack. All of a sudden, we walk by them. I see them. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Because I was stoned, and I was like, is this happening? I didn't think I really saw him. I thought maybe it was like an illusion. So anyway, so we go up the escalator, and all of a sudden they run after me, and anyway, so my mind is blown by that, right? So because we talked for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, at one point I go, what do we do now? You know, because there was like a lull in the conversation. I'm like, do we hang out? Do you come with me? Whatever happens. So we go in the sports book. Now, I totally forgot about Rico and Valeni doing the show. So we're sitting in the sports book, we're watching a game, and I turn to my buddy, I go, I wonder where Rico and Valeni are doing the show. And he's like, I don't know, just look to your right. And they were literally 5 feet from me, Valeni and Rico doing their show on 97.1 there. So anyway, it was just a whirlwind of seeing people that I never thought I would see just randomly in Vegas.
It's outstanding. And it's I don't know. It's fun. The picture of you and Rico looked like you were genuinely happy to see each other. And you were obviously stoned, but
I like Rico, man.
Yeah.
You know, he has his haters, but I liked working with Rico doing the Spartan Beach show. And yeah, it was just wild that I just ran smack dab into him. So
that is also a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing, 402 South Washington Avenue, and also a reason to go to Skyman. Like, you can feel like Jason Nick did that morning, where you're not even
great.
sure. Yeah. I mean,
headphones on, just dancing around, watching some games.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. They've got great deals going on at all times. And if you've never been to Skyman, use the Couch and the Rube promo code CouchandRube20 for 20% off. Go to Skyman.com for location information and specials. And what you can do when you're there, you sign up, and they'll email you all the latest specials. They jump right into the inbox, and you're probably half an hour from a Skyman tops. We got 3 here in the greater Lansing area. They're in Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, couple in Kalamazoo, Muskegon, you name it. They're in that area. Go to skymint.com for location information.
And there's a good chance you'll see the Rube there.
Very good
one
chance.
Of those locations.
Yes. And sometimes he doesn't even know which one he's at. He's just driven a Whitehall to all of a sudden be in the Skyman.
Yeah. Ron Kixiotti. What MSU football player makes the biggest jump in 2022?
Well, you bring up Keon Coleman. I think there is a chance that somebody like him is it, because the players that usually make a jump it's got to be opportunity based, number one, and then they've got to have the talent. And so somebody had to be in front of them before, but they've also got the talent. Like, sometimes guys finally get an opportunity, but if they really had the talent, they would have been out there front and center before. And I think, both Malik Carr, you sort of saw the potential. You saw a lot of it late. And so, I think the jump will be, while he'll be a much more prevalent part of things, I do think that Keon Coleman has a chance to be a guy who's a big part of things from the get-go. And because of the guys they have returning, and Jaden Reed and Trey Mosley and whatnot, a guy who's not really the focal point of defenses, which helps him have a good year.
Next one from Ron Q. More exciting sporting event, the Final Four or opening day?
Where are you at on this?
Final Four, easy for me.
Yeah.
I mean, opening day is awesome, but, it's just game one of many.
My favorite.
I love that baseball is back, but Final Four.
And the problem with opening day is, and I love watching opening day on TV, I never want to go. It's cold as shit all the time. Like, going to opening day doesn't seem all that fun to me. Like, baseball, starting in May, I want to go to baseball games usually. And now, I'm with you on the Final Four.
Last one from Ron Kixotti. Graham, you talk about your basketball prowess all the time. What former MSU player does your pickup game resemble? In older, slower form, of course.
I've been thinking about this a lot.
Of course.
Once I saw the question. And no, it was funny because I was actually doing a story that may be up now, maybe running early next week on John Horford, the former Grand Ledge star, and who's in Michigan and Florida player who's at the he's running for the 77th seat in the State House. And I was out on Saturday last week, and then a little on Tuesday, just when he was going door to door with him, and we got talking about pickup hoops and everything naturally. And by the end, I was walking home because he was kind of in my neighborhood, and I was like, God, that was a dumb comment. Because then he was like, man, I'd love to play pickup with you guy. I don't want him to see me. Like right now, the legend lives in his eyes, right? And I don't want him to actually see me play. That could hurt it a little bit. But this was hard for me because, you think about a guy like Kirk Mans, but I don't think Kirk Mans had my vision. I don't think he was attentive defensively. So I don't know. It's a really tough.
John Gavaria was his name? Gavalia?
Yeah, he didn't maximize who he was. He couldn't shoot. It's really hard. What I am is a limited athletic guy who does not offensive rebound, who can shoot when he gets going, but I'm very attentive defensively, and I'm a decent passer. You find that guy at a rec league level and then move it up, there you go. And I'm 42, so I'm getting slower all the time.
Steve Beckman up next. What should MSU do to add offensive line depth in the remaining spring practices and the green and white game? Put more tight ends in the line, make some defensive linemen switch over to learn how the other side lives, or just ride it out with what they have?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you do anything in the spring. Like, if you've got guys that are going to be back. But I think if you're just trying to add for the fall, yeah, I would. I mean, I think they have a chance to be okay in the fall there if they're healthy. They know there needs to be some development with some of the young guys. I would also not be surprised to see them try to add, another offensive lineman in the offseason if they feel they need it. Now, that getting guys who can come in and you got to get guys who are better than the guys you have, right? But I do think with transfers and whatnot, there will be openings and there will be some guys, there'll be some movement. I think Horst coming back, Jarrett Horst was a big deal for this line. I think I think the line is a huge storyline, but I don't think like the injuries and depth that we're hearing about in the spring are as big a concern for the fall. There are guys who would play this week if it were the fall. They're not going to play during the spring.
Next one from Steve. How much would you be willing to spend if the Duke North Carolina Final Four game was on pay-per-view?
So what would you pay for that? Like, we obviously want to see it.
Right. What's the circumstance, though?
Say it's
the way it is now?
That's the way it is. Okay. What would you pay? $50?
$9.99? Like $10? I don't know. Like
what
it would really turn me off if they were doing individual games this way. So I would be kind of.
Back in the old days when they had some, ESPN Plus type games. You remember you used to have to pay for a game day package. It was like $19.95. And I did that a few times. I paid for big fights once in a while.
The UFC, I just don't. If there's a big fight, I do the UFC. If it were, I don't know. It just depends on the circumstance. But if they did each individual game, I would be so turned off. Like $10 would be my limit. But obviously, if it were up to, if you're betting on it, you'd pay $50, I'm guessing.
But if your bet's only $50, then you lose, and then it's pointless.
Yeah, I mean, it's complete ass. Yeah. But I'm guessing, you definitely want to watch it. There's nothing else on Saturday night.
See, here would be my problem, is I would pay the $50, be excited to watch it, and then my wife would say, hey, let's watch, a show together, and I would get into that, and I'd forget.
And that's when you say, don't you realize I paid $50 to watch this game?
And then she'd be pissed, and she'd watch it too. Yeah.
Next one from Beckman. Can you name a 2022 men's March Madness game that was better than the UConn-NC State women's game? I mean, UNC Baylor.
Yeah,
was pretty badass.
The way that finished was amazing. There have been a couple. There was another game early I was watching while I was in Greenville on a Sports Park TV. I'm trying to remember what that was. There have been a couple games, but that was a great women's game. That was an unbelievable. I mean, UConn-NC State was a thrilling finish. There's no question about it.
Next one from Steve. What are the odds that you'll send prizes to the hashtag Couch in the Rube Pick'em football winners before you send them to the March Madness bracket pool winners?
I call it about 50-50. But, yeah, no, we're trying to do that in that order. No question. No
the March Madness bracket winner gets a shirt or a clothing item
Yeah.
that they would like made of their choice by Treese. So
And same maybe for the others, too.
right.
Yeah.
Derek Spartan. Is the O-line going to hold the 2022-23 Spartans back?
There's a chance. I mean, that's the thing. That is the area that they were solid enough last year to get what they needed out of it. And it's still the area that, I mean, the thing about offensive line, more than anything else in the transfer portal world and the immediacy of what they've been able to do at Michigan State under Tucker, that's not the quick fix position. That's a development position. You're recruiting athletic, chubby 17-year-olds who you got to turn into grown men with muscle. You know, you got to change. I mean, it's
so tough, man.
It's the hardest position to play early, and I don't know. That's a great question. If I had great faith though in the offensive line, I would probably say, you know, that they would go better than 9-3, and I don't. So that's why I put that number there.
Next from Derek Spartan, who wins the Big Ten next? MSU football or MSU basketball? Who wins a national championship next? Football or basketball?
Well, I mean, you have to say basketball in both cases because they've just done it more often, more regularly. I mean, they won a Big Ten title just a couple of years ago in basketball. They won 3 straight, and they've had more runs to get to the dance, so to speak. Even the final, if you even equate the Final Four in football to the Final Four in basketball, Michigan State's been a contender for that more often. So it's not that it can't happen in football. We've seen Michigan get to the playoff, but it's just harder to pull upsets too. It's hard. There seems to be a greater chasm between the top guys in football and even the next tier in the playoff. So you have to say basketball if it's going to happen.
Next one from Derek. Where is your favorite place to vacation? Graham, the UP doesn't count.
I don't understand why the UP doesn't count. Like, the UP is amazing.
Because he knows that's what your
I would
answer
say.
would be.
Yeah, I'd say Marquette. Yeah.
So he could have said, other than the UP, Graham, what's your favorite
place to vacation? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed Ireland. Might go to England this summer. San Diego, though, is a place that I'm just trying to think. Great.
It's amazing.
San Diego's outstanding. The weather's always good.
Go do weather there, Eastlick.
Yeah, Charleston was fun. I mean, I've been to a lot of places. Maine, you know, I mean, you name it. I mean, I've been to a lot of good places. Loved Portland. I don't know.
Just name what you don't like.
Yeah, I'd like
easier.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Jason Akins. This question is a present for the Rube. How far can Canada go in the World Cup? Canada has a team? They play soccer? Are they in? Is Canada in?
Canada's in.
Okay.
They won the CONCACAF. They were the top team in the qualifiers in the U.S. and Mexico's division and everything.
Oh man, they can win it all then. CONCACAF. Shit, if they can win that.
So by the way, the World Cup is late this year. But if if you want to take advantage and you want to celebrate the World Cup, you want to celebrate any soccer thing, you want to just have Groovy Donuts will do that for you. You want to have a World Cup party this fall? Plan ahead. Make Groovy Donuts part of that. They will do all sorts of cool soccer stuff. They'll do USA stuff. They'll put Christian Pulisic on a donut for you, and Monica can do that if you really want to. Whatever it is, and if you've got graduation things coming up, Easter, whatever it is, and donuts, Groovy Donuts especially, make any occasion better. I'm just telling you, it's something people talk about when you have them at your event. It's worth doing, and they will customize it just for you. Go to groovydonuts.com to place an order. You can also contact them there if you have questions. Monica and Andrew will get back to you quickly. And 2 locations, again, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and in Williamston.
Kevin from Rochester Hills up next. Which of the Final Four teams are most likable? If Duke wins the Natty, is college basketball rigged? The Coach K Lovefest is nauseating. Yeah,
I mean, you certainly get some calls still down the stretch. It's not rigged though. They've got great players. I mean, they arguably have the best. They probably do have the best player left in the field. Which of the 4 teams is most likable? It's got to be Nova, right? Most likable. Jay Wright.
Yeah,
seems
not
clean.
Kansas is
Yeah.
Could be up there with Coach K.
I mean, North Carolina, this team isn't unlikable because they came from because they're the team that's taken down Duke, and if they take them down again, and they've they've been a team that's sort of overcome a little bit this year. They're not
so it's
unlikable.
UNC, right? It's North Carolina because they can knock Coach K out again
Yeah.
out of the Final Four.
Maybe this one it is North Carolina.
And people are rooting for that.
Yeah.
Tyler, do you agree if Purdue, if it hasn't happened yet, it probably ain't happening?
This is a bad stretch. I mean, the problem Purdue has now is we're sort of seeing that when they recruit Gigantor as their center, they're not great against ball screens, and that doesn't translate into postseason success. It is amazing, though, that Purdue you can say what you want about Painter. He's not a bad coach. He's not. You can say he's not a great postseason coach. But between Painter and Gene Cady, it's remarkable that Purdue hasn't been there. I mean, they've had. You think about Glenn Robinson teams and all the the teams with Consul Martin and the teams they've had at Purdue over the years, and they did have some real. The team that might have won it all was the team that had all those injuries a few years back. But I guess it's been a decade now. But I don't want to say that because it's not Iowa. I know Iowa did it 2 straight years, but Iowa, this feels like this was their moment these last couple of years and didn't happen. Painter has sort of regerminated that thing several times over with different casts. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts together a team that in the next few years that's got a shot.
Next one from Tyler. MSU had a rough season, but they almost beat Duke, who is the best team in this tourney so far. Not that far off, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. They played amazing to beat Duke, and they made Duke play well, or to lose, even in losing to Duke. They made Duke play well to beat them. Pound for pound, though, Duke had more pros, and that's happened in even years when Michigan State's been really, really good. They're not that far off, but they are very specifically what they need. It's not like, boy, they just show up again, roll it out next year, they should be there, or yeah, maybe they're almost there. No, they need Max Christie to become a guy. They need A.J. Hoggard to become a guy. They need Malik Hall to get out of his own head. They need Jaden Akins to take the next step. They need these things to happen. If they do, which they're very capable of happening, I think it's a team that could be terrific. But those things need to happen, and because what they got at the end this year was great play out of their seniors largely, who hadn't been great all year.
All right, next up from Tyler. Unfortunately for UNC, Duke is going to win the game and make us all hurl.
So yeah, it won't. I mean, I'll be able to stomach it. I think
not by more than 4.5. I hope.
As long as
I can live with that.
You can live with that.
Yeah. Professor, why is nobody talking about cheater Bill Self in the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean, all I hear is how great coach he is and all that stuff. It's remarkable, and I think he is a great coach too. I think you can be both things. And the weird thing about cheating now in college basketball is it feels like a lot of what used to be illegal is now legal. So you know, and a lot of what we considered just so damn bad years ago.
So
is like,
Bill Self's like, see, I told you guys.
Yeah,
I was ahead of my time.
That's right.
Snoop Dogg and stripper poles at Midnight Madness.
Yeah, no, it to me it's remarkable that Kansas hasn't ever been taken down by this.
Ken Chu. When did MSU's non-revenue sports get so good?
Well, they're not all good, but the gymnastics story is pretty cool. What I think is cool about the gymnastics story is, here's a program that was, even though wasn't quite the epicenter of the Larry Nassar scandal, but it was the program one of the programs he had worked with. It was the sport he had worked with on the national level. It was I guess their coach is the one who got fired. Yeah, it was the sport. It was a program that was, people talk about Michigan State and that scandal, but most of the sports didn't really have anything to do with Larry Nassar. Gymnastics did. And to see that program be elite right now, 5 years later, new coach, all that jazz, and one of the key player, their key athlete, who's their kind of their captain, still around, who was committed before it and stayed with them, I think is a really, really cool story. And they obviously got to the next level at the regional, which is equivalent to like the Sweet 16 is where they're at now. And Saturday in Seattle, if they win that, they're at nationals, and we'll probably do some more on them.
Carl Mylock up next. What is shaping up to be the biggest weakness or question mark on the 2022 MSU football team?
It's the offensive line, without question. because you can have everything else, and that can is alluded to earlier. That can set you back. That can limit you, and you kind of know it. Like, yeah, I remember I forget. They were playing Bowling Green years ago in the D'Antonio era, and like the first game, and they couldn't move Bowling Green on the offensive line. You're like, that's a problem for the year. Like, you can tell, and you'll know it in those early games. You won't know it entirely. You can't know it completely for the better, but you'll know it for the worse. Like, if they don't move, what is it, Western and Akron, whoever they're playing, if they're not winning up front against those guys, it's not going to happen when Ohio State visits. And again, you don't need to win that battle, but you got to be able to hold your own. And I'm very curious to see the Ohio State game this year, because last year was a disaster, and it wasn't indicative of who Michigan State was at its best. It was like the worst moment for them, where they had sort of lost confidence, and Ohio State peaked and was motivated, and it was the worst timing. And I think those two programs will be in a different place earlier in the year. I think that's a much more competitive game, but you got to be able to compete up front.
Last one from Carl. Would either of you consider attending the 2024 NFL Draft in Detroit?
Will you go?
I would consider it. How many times is it going to come back to Detroit?
I don't know what. I'll have to look at like the event list. Like, I don't know.
I just feel like I'm at the point in my life where, like, you got to start going to some of this shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there would have to be some circumstance. I just, events like that with a lot of people, I don't know.
So it was interesting. I was talking to my wife about this. She said, "Is this a big deal for you?" And I said, I can't figure out why it's not, but it's not. And then I started thinking about it. You know what it is? With the teams, Michigan teams, Detroit teams, grew up on those teams. Those are big deals to me. But the city of Detroit itself, and while I like Detroit, I've spent so much of my adult life in Chicago, which isn't that far away, that just sort of events or in terms of big cities that I identify with. I mean, we had two different apartments there for like 4 years when we've been married, I guess we weren't the first apartment we weren't married, but we just spent so much time there that and friends there and everything that I identify with that city is a place to go if there was something I want to do so much more than I do Detroit. And I'm also a Lansing snob, so I got issues there.
Brett, up next. With so many running backs in the rotation for MSU, would someone like Harold Joyner be better off moving to wide receiver? Physical, big body player who's already shown his effectiveness as a receiver out of the backfield.
I do think they'll look at different ways to use him. He's a tall guy. I don't know that he's, I have not heard his name come up a lot as a running back in terms of just straight hand the ball off. I think they'll look to ways to use him. He's already a guy who's transferred, so you're probably not going to transfer again if you're him. But I do think he has some tools to be an effective player. I don't know if a straight receiver. I mean, they're going to be pretty loaded at receiver as well. I don't think that's. But he can be a guy they use in a number of ways, maybe.
Brett, with this one, can it stop fucking snowing so I can go outside and enjoy my life?
Yeah, it would be nice. It's
anytime now.
It's kind of bullshit.
Brett, with this one. Also, who's back of the week? The Rube. Glad you're feeling better. It's tough listening to a solo you-know-who when you're out. Not going to mention names. Have a good weekend, guys.
You realize how much this show is predicated on your existence when you're gone. Because I'm not very good. And Alex, I thought, was really good last Friday.
Alex is always good, yeah.
But I'm just not. I'm not. When I have to do anything on my own, it's.
Rob, appreciate both of them filling in for me.
Yeah.
But thanks, Rob. Cucker Tarlson, in Yoda voice, please say.
Talk come again this season, will he? In matchup, will they be defeated first? Who will the biggest storyline fall upon this year? Hashtag Yoda coming.
How'd I do?
The hashtag really just put it over.
Yeah. Did well.
Man.
It was good. So I didn't even understand what was being asked, but
neither did anyone else.
Which matchup will Michigan State be defeated first in the biggest storyline of the fall this year? I am curious to see what Peyton Thorne becomes as the guy. Like what his. I am very curious to see who he is as a guy who is now established as the quarterback, as a guy who's trying to take that next step to be an NFL guy, a guy who's should be is hoping to be an elite college quarterback. I think let me get the date right on this Ohio State game. So Minnesota, September 24th is sneaky scary, I think, for Michigan State. Minnesota could be good. Ohio State, October 8th is probably the first loss if it doesn't happen to Minnesota at home 2 weeks earlier.
Tucker Tarleson with this one. In an alternate universe where MSU beat Duke, give us Coach K's last post-game speech in character. See, again, this is why we're not doing Cameo. Again, selling your soul for $2.50.
We'd charge $5.
No. Insert name here. I'm not doing it. Are you guys watching Drive to Survive Formula One show? Not a car or race guy, and I'm hooked. 10 out of 10. Recommend.
I've never watched it, but I'm up for it. I'll check it out because I do think.
Have you ever watched Formula One?
I haven't, but if it's a behind the scenes sort of thing, I can be into that. Right?
It's wild.
Yeah. Are you a Formula One guy?
No, it was on in the sports book because I was there so effing early. So I did watch it, and I was like, man, how do people watch this shit?
People are really into it, and people
cool,
you wouldn't expect to be into it are really into it. By the way, I am also disappointed that you're not going to do the Coach K post game speech.
Oh, you'll get over it.
Okay.
Insert name here. How times do we hear what?
How many
times do we hear? It wasn't in there. How many times do we hear Christy needs to add 15 pounds before it gets annoying? I'm getting Bingham needs to hit the gym and eat more vibes. No shit.
Yeah, I'll try not to say. I'll keep it at 10 pounds. He should add a muscle.
My column.
Yeah.
July. Christy needs to add 15 lbs.
Let's do it.
Column. Insert name here. Jason, power ranking activities while sick. 1, feverishly masturbating. 2, looking at trading card collection. 3, trying to justify being dead inside for line fandom, but being excited about draft and hard knocks. And 4, Sky Mint.
Yeah, put those in
number
order.
Number 1, Sky Mint is number 1, definitely, because I didn't have an appetite whatsoever, and Sky Mint, the tincture, like I told you at the beginning of the show, helped immensely. I would say boredom, looking at trading card collection. I did look at eBay, trying to justify being the Lions thing because I'm debating on whether or not I really want to watch Hard Knocks and do I really care about the draft. And feverishly masturbating last because I'm like 43, and that was feverishly only happened during ages 15 through 17.
Those were feverish
Those
years.
were that's what we call feverishly masturbating between 15 and 17.
Yeah, Gavin knows where we're at.
No, he doesn't. No, Gavin doesn't, because I was looking at Sears catalogs. Gavin has a device that he can look up porn till his eyes bleed.
It's a very different.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have any idea what we went through.
You don't need the imagination. You don't need
scrambled porn.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I remember the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue would show up once a year, and it was like trying to steal it so my dad didn't know it came.
No pun intended.
So Hard Knocks. You're not excited about it.
Yeah, whatever. I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
You have to watch because the Lions are forced into it, and it has to be interesting, right?
If I'm Jared Goff, I'm like, this is redemption. Because you remember he looked like a freaking weasel during the Rams one when he was a rookie.
He's going to look like a weasel again, but the Sheila Hamp, the vignette, I can see it happening now with Martha, and I might have to skip that episode because there's no way I can watch that. But Joshua Bishop. Is this Texas A&M NIT runners-up graphic the best, worst graphic ever put out by a university?
So this is kind of interesting, and I pulled this up right here.
Yes. To answer your question.
These are visual questions, which aren't great for our medium entirely, but it says Texas A&M men's basketball, and then national, the small lines, runners-up in huge letters, and in this small little line it says invitational tournament. So it's the NIT. They were NIT. God. It's incredible.
2022 is ass.
I think that's outstanding. I think it is the best worst.
Ugh. Sports Guy 1919. How many primetime games did Tampa Bay increase due to Tom Brady's unretiring?
What would have been funny is if the schedule had already come out and then he came back and it was like, oh god, we gotta work some games in here.
But they flex a lot of games anyway. So.
Yeah, he'll be in 4 primetime at least. At least.
Oh yeah. DVB. With the $500 a month stipend that MSU football and basketball players receive from the United Wholesale Mortgage /ISHBIA, how does that compare to the monetary payments that other athletes at other big schools get? Do all major programs have some type of stipend like that in place? Is $500 a month low, high, or average?
Well, at the time it came out, it was unprecedented. I mean, Miami football had something similar to it, but not basketball and football. And so I don't know how many others have followed suit. There are other people who are, you see recruiting classes that cost $10 million at Texas A&M and things like that. There have been other, but I don't think everybody has this yet. I think what happened at Michigan State was a little bit ahead of the curve. I do think it's something that you'll see at big schools that most people have before long.
Jordan Bunt. WrestleMania is this weekend. Who are your favorite professional wrestlers growing up? Also, fun fact, George the Animal Steel went to Michigan State.
Were you a professional wrestling guy?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take a wild guess if the Rube was a young wrestling fan. Absolutely. Hulk Hogan was my guy. The Road Warriors. I had all those like figurines and stuff.
So I was
the ring.
I was not a huge. I think these two things say a lot about us, our personalities. You are a massive wrestling fan. As one
I
would
wouldn't
expect.
go massive, but yeah, I went to some wrestling events and bought all the figurines and the ring, or my parents did.
And I, even though I was not a huge fan, but I wanted to come across as cool enough to be in with the in-group who was talking about it at Verlinden Elementary.
So you want to be highbrow, but
right.
hang with the lesser folk.
I would try and pick up on things like Junkyard Dog, like what's going on with him, so I could at least speak the language at Verlinden back in the day.
Oh man, what an atomic leg drop by Hulk Hogan. Jarrett, what Savannah Banana baseball rules would you like to see added to the Major League Baseball rules?
So the Savannah Banana League rules there are a couple interesting ones here. Every inning counts, so the team that gets the most runs in an inning gets a point for that inning. 2-hour time limit. If the game is tied at the end of 2 hours, the game will go on a showdown to determine the winner. No stepping out of the batter's box. No bunting. Batters can steal first. A pass ball or wild pitch. No walks allowed. If a pitcher throws the fourth ball, it becomes a sprint. One-on-one showdown tiebreaker. Each team picks one pitcher and the other hitter to face off. No mound visits allowed. If a fan catches a foul ball, it's an out. Some of these are fun, but would ruin the game of baseball. You can't bring the fan in. Otherwise teams are gonna be like teaching their fans how to catch foul balls with gloves.
Bartman situation happening all over again.
Can't
lose the World Series. I think Bill Spaceman Lee, 75-year-old Bill Lee, drinking a beer on the way down, pitching to someone in the 7th inning stretch.
That's
he did in the baseball. Did you see that?
No.
You know who Bill Spaceman Lee is, right?
Yeah.
Well, apparently they had him there, and he's 75 years old, and he came out of the crowd drinking a beer and threw a ephus pitch.
That was this week?
Yeah.
I did not see that.
That's what we need. 7th inning stretch. Make that fun again.
Yeah, I don't know that I do like I like bunting because I think bunting makes the game exciting, but batters can steal first. I do like the idea on any wild pitch a batter can go. That would make it exciting.
All right. Graham, heard you said something about a CPAP machine. Do you have sleep apnea? Could you touch on that?
I do. I think
you do
talked quite a bit about it when I do have sleep apnea. Yeah. Breaking news.
Oh my God.
I've had it since diagnosed in 2005, and
poor Elizabeth. What else does she need?
Yeah, right. No, it's sexy.
Giant machine.
It makes your life so much better. It'll and if you have sleep apnea, or you're not sleeping well, or your spouse would much rather, if you have sleep apnea, you have a CPAP machine than the sounds of your snoring waking you up every 2 minutes for 8 hours. Trust me, your spouse you will get laid more by your spouse if you have a CPAP machine than if you don't. You will have just a cranky wife, and you'll feel like shit. And yes, so I do have a CPAP machine. And
are they loud?
No, they're not. I mean, unless you don't have a good one. But
all right, Grab. Worse outcomes for COVID or immune system was not vaccination status, but vitamin D deficiency. Sharing this for Flu Boy. Love you, Jason. Glad you're back. Thanks, Grab. Is he saying I need some more vitamin D?
He's saying the worst outcomes were people who didn't have enough vitamin D. Vitamin D is important. Do you take your vitamin D?
I don't know. Do I?
Probably not then.
No. All right. Grab with this one. Don't get the Kaepernick hype. He supported Cuban oppression, but piggy images on his piggy images on his socks. Didn't understand data for that every black male that dies by cop, 18 police officers die. Did phony workouts for the NFL and is no Martin Luther King Jr. or Muhammad Ali in my book.
Kaepernick was not the perfect vessel. And I don't know how much he actually wanted to come back and play. I don't have a sense of that. And I also think part of the problem is I don't think he was that good a quarterback. I think he was good, but certainly he was as good as a lot of the backups in the league. But he wasn't a traditional quarterback, so you'd have to change your offense for him. I do think there were some things that were overlooked in that discussion. I also think if he hadn't, been leading the conversation, and he isn't a perfect vessel, but he led what I think was an important conversation.
If he could lead a team to a Super Bowl,
he'd have a job.
He would have a job.
That's true.
And is he better than most of the quarterbacks in the league? Yeah, but
not anymore.
But why take the heat if you're a franchise for a backup quarterback?
Correct. That's the problem. Is he's a backup quarterback who can't run the same offense you ran with your starter because that's not his style, and you're going to take a lot of heat from signing him. And owners it's about money, and they're not going to do it.
Couch on Fire. Is Rube now convinced that healthy living isn't all it's supposed to be? Yeah, but it's fun waking up, not having your head feel like complete ass. So I don't know if you consider what I'm doing healthy living, but yeah, it's better than where I was 2 years ago. That's for sure. Couch on Fire with this one. Could we have a more sucky Final Four? Really, those 4 teams and UNC Duke? I think it's a decent Final Four.
Yeah, I don't mind having
if Villanova didn't have that injury too.
Yeah, I like to have one sort of underdog Cinderella there, but I don't mind those teams ducking out of the Final 8 and having a great Final Four. I did like the year Loyola was there. I do like having the one sort of epic matchup and one final, underdog, but we didn't get that, and it does. The Villanova injury does suck.
Where are we at? Couch on Fire. Graham, how much availability have you been given during spring ball? Are you invested in football 2022 yet?
Yeah, no, they've been great. They've had a couple open, partially open practices. They've had a lot of interview availability, and I had some time to sit down with Mel Tucker on my own, which was good, and that story will be out next week. So they've been terrific.
Mr. Benjen, Graham, how is it a full-time job to write 2 to 3 pieces a week? Why do you stay hours after games and all we get is one quick take? Where's the output, man?
I don't really understand this question because I average during the football and basketball seasons about 30 bylines a month, so that equates.
You get bonus takes this year.
Yeah, and I've been throwing out 3. Yeah, man, I don't. And I will say this too, like in terms of number of pieces, there's different types of writing. I've been a beat writer. Man, if all I've got to do is quote, transition, take the news, and I'm not saying there aren't hard parts of that job, but it's different than what I do now. It's a different type of exhaustion. It's a different type of you're paying for your thought. You give more of yourself each time, and they're just different types of work. It's less volume. I used to love that stuff. I used to love days in Kalamazoo when I was like on the front page, 4 stories by me. That was fun. But it's a different type of work now. It takes longer. You give more of yourself. It's fewer. It's less writing. And I hopefully he's tongue in cheek here.
Mr. Benjen, Graham's wrong again.
What?
Didn't Goran Sutan have Izzo's biggest 1-year jump?
I don't know what Sutan was great in 2009. Here's the problem is in 2009, I covered that game against Louisville in the Elite Eight. He was spectacular. But I was covering a different basketball team and was not paying attention to them day in and day out. So I don't have a great sense of every part of his career.
Mr. Benjen with this last one. What would it take for Hoff to have been or be the first dance song at your wedding?
A different wife, certainly for me. I don't know about you.
Treese is very, very lenient on a lot of shit, obviously, but I think she might put the foot down at that. We would play Hoff for sure,
yes.
But the first song, it would take, I don't know, pay for half the wedding or something, and we play it.
There was a lot of...
If Hoff was there...
Yeah, if Hoff was there to
Hoff?
do it, yes. If David Hasselhoff was at the wedding, we would have done... Yeah, that's... Yeah, no, there's no way. We would have played it, though, for sure, if this show was going on back when we got married.
Imagine this starts playing, like Hoff comes out of nowhere at your wedding.
Or just convince Elizabeth that's what you're coming down the aisle to. We actually did a different rendition of "I Would Walk 500 Miles." It was like a acoustical slow version, really good.
Proclaimers.
Yeah, but it was,
right?
it wasn't by them. It was another guy who did a version of it.
Oh.
Because it was slow acoustical.
Oh, no. How do you slow that song down?
It's amazing. It's a phenomenal version. But because it worked for us, because we had been commuting and doing a lot of long distance living in Chicago and Lansing. But the song she also wanted originally was, she wanted I Put My Foot Down, was Casey and JoJo's All My Life.
That's a good song.
It's a great song. And I liked it at certain points in my life. It's a little, I don't know what it is, but here's the biggest problem. We both loved it in 1998. The problem is, in 1998, I'm 18, she's 10. And so when I think of that song and both of us loving it in 1998, I think of her as a 10-year-old and me as an 18-year-old, and I feel like a pedophile. So that song was never going to be our song.
But see, you made it weird.
I did. I always make it weird.
Right.
That's my thing.
So that's where your mind goes when you hear Casey and JoJo.
Yes.
A 10-year-old
correct
wife. All right. Fart Soup. Can you break down the potential U.S. squad for the World Cup?
I want Reyna, Claudio Reyna's son, right? Is that who it is? Or I don't even know if they're related. But I want Reyna, the young fellow who's 19, to play a lot. I like their midfield with McKinney and Adams and those guys. A little concerned about them at figuring out who their number 9 is. And Jason has just left the studio.
Yeah, Fart Soup. How much Sky Mint would it take for the Rube to have to watch U.S. versus Costa Rica in Spanish only?
It'd be a real test of Sky Mint.
Not much. I think, depends on what kind of joint I smoke. I'm pretty sure I could watch pretty much anything.
There you go.
Yeah. Next one from Fart Soup. WTF happened in Vegas, Rube? Strippers, Coke, Rico Beard. I did see Rico Beard. Honestly, it was wake up 7:30 in the morning, take an Uber down to Golden Nugget, watch 12 hours of basketball, pizza, hang out in the room in bed, and then repeat for 4 straight days. And I loved every second of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely a grind, but man,
that's when you know you're in your 40s.
Yes.
Because that's how you do Vegas.
Right, and I don't drink anymore. It's definitely
right.
Different from when we went in 2016.
Yeah.
That terrible trip. Dark Mantonio. Isn't it funny that MSU fans were all over Harbaugh for being on social media years back, but are wholeheartedly behind Tucker doing it? Mind you, I don't know what either of them posts on social media.
I don't remember. Were people all over Harbaugh for being on social media? I don't remember that. I don't have no recollection of that, but it's possible.
Dark Mantonio. Is Izzo's win total an ominous sign of things to come?
So I don't really know where he's going. Like this, having the 663 or whatever, and other people who've been up there. Like Bobby Knight's tenure, and I don't know. I mean, I think he's got 5-6 years left if he wants to, and at a pretty high level, because there's no evidence that. I guess they've had 2 years in a row that haven't been at the highest level, but the recruiting's still been decent, and I don't know that the win total has anything to do with anything.
Dark Mantonio, considering your definition of blue blood, who would yours be in college football and basketball?
In basketball, it's probably Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, Indiana's probably a blue blood. UCLA. To me, you have to have fans, and I'm not sure UCLA has fans. So there aren't that many programs that are true blue bloods of the sport. In football, it's Bama, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, USC, those schools. Yeah.
Next one from Mr. Neurotic Pants, excuse me. Most Big Ten basketball teams are still top 25 teams, so can't we take comfort in that? It may not be the best conference, but it's always in the conversation.
So here's the thing about the Big Ten. It's a 2-year problem, really. And I understand not having a national championship now is a 2-decade problem. But you go into this year, and you go since 2001, it was the last 20 years or whatever, and since 2012, so the more recent times and the full 2-decade picture, the Big Ten had more teams and more different teams in the Final Four in both of those time spans than any other league. The Pac-12 is not even close. They were a horrible league last year, even though they made it a bunch of their teams made it a long way. And so the Final Four, which is a pretty good judge of that, I mean, you got to get a long way, and they're doing it with a lot of different teams in terms of the strength of the top of your league. And maybe they haven't had the elite team as often as Duke or or the ACC is had in given years. But this last couple years, I think, is more largely a big man problem. You're not going to do it with Kofi. Sorry, I almost screwed that up. Kofi.
Cockburn.
Luka Garza with Zach Edey. You're just not going to. These guys are not how you win in the NCAA tournament, and you just don't defend well enough with them. And if you're playing through them, and there were other reasons those teams lost and whatnot, but I think that sort of behemoth big man is while it may work for bludgeoning yourself in the Big Ten, is not how you make a run in the NCAA tournament, and that needs to be learned.
Last one from Neurotic Pants. Have you had to go on the air when all of a sudden you had to power shart?
A lot of sharting talk.
I think when we did the show at 10 to noon, 5 days a week, there was more of a chance. Now that we just record,
and
we have time to.
We're ready.
We're ready. Yeah,
because we used to
take care of that before the show.
We used to go right at 10, be off at noon, more radio style format. And there were times you'd be like, oh my gosh.
There was one time where Graham left for an Izzo presser, and he's like, "Can you do the last 10 by yourself?" And I'm like, "All right."
We would never do that now. We would just end the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And then so as soon as Graham left, my stomach just started gurgling, and I'm like, oh no. So I get back on air. I'm sweating profusely. I don't even remember what I talked about, and I'm just like, and I there's no commercial breaks left. And I was just like, oh my God, this is when I shit my pants on the air.
Outstanding.
But I didn't. Chris Davis at 2:43 a.m. apparently. If you're everyone in Ukraine now, were you the same way when we invaded Libya or Syria? Did we bow down to the prowess of Somalia before Biden bombed them? But hoops, when you call out Obama on being worse than Putin, you tread in sketchy waters, but the truth is the truth.
I put the time there because I don't know if Chris meant to send this as a Twitter question or he did it because it was 2:43 a.m. and he had a little bit to drink. I'm not saying Chris doesn't believe this, but he often, Twitter questions from Chris are reflected on the time of day he sent it. So I know how Chris feels on this stuff. There's lots of hypocrisy in how we've dealt with international situations throughout years and what we were, the people we care about, whether they look like us or not, throughout history. There's a lot of that. But at the same time, what's happening in Ukraine now is absolutely awful.
Tyrone Couch. Did Harry just learn Jason's name this previous week, or has he known it all along and felt bad that he was sick, so he used it out of respect?
So I had Harry on last Wednesday, and I think he called you Jason. I said Jay.
Wow.
Yeah, he learned your name.
Never heard that before.
Yeah.
Tyrone Couch. My brother wants me to ask you if it can still be called a blow job if there's no swallowing involved. My take was maybe a blow internship.
Sorry, this probably shouldn't have made it. I saw this late. I put this on. Yeah. That's a little, even for us, that's a little.
No, it was fine.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Tyrone Couch. Why did parents that have equal time but bust their ass to get multiple degrees have to pay more in child support? How do my 3 degrees make her electricity or water bill higher? She only has an electric bill because she let her boss sodomize her on a work trip.
Appreciate
this is why you leave these in.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I didn't even pre-read that one. I love that. Coyote up next. Graham is so sweet. Did you really say you couldn't go on with the show without me? Besties, buddy. Hashtag or kissy sound.
Okay.
Man, we're fucking spiraling here. Next one from Q-Dog. Isn't it a good thing Mrs. Graham doesn't listen since we're powered by love? I don't know what's happening. I didn't write these. Last one from Coyote. Did I really say halcyon? It's really halcyon. What happened while I was gone? The fuck are these?
Here's what happened last night. I had kind of a headache as I was going to bed, and it wasn't going away. And so I was like, if I can't sleep, I might as well get the Twitter questions done at night mostly. So a lot of these were me organizing them at 2 a.m. I don't know that I'd leave all of those in had I been paying attention.
We're glad you did. Hans Jurgen, oh boy. Do you think if Dwayne Stevens was coach, he would consider using a zone occasionally?
I mean, look what we just went from 1 to 2. Like, that's not my typical organizational. To answer your question, Hans, I don't know, but I know this is his defense is he will run Tom Izzo's defense because that's what Izzo's in the Hall of Fame for. And I have heard from other coaches say that Stevens knows it as well as anybody. Like that's like if you want that defensive acumen and personality and culture in the program, then Stevens is a good guy to continue it on. But he might also be more open to other things. So who knows?
Next one from Hans. What if the reality of heaven was just one big continuous ejaculatory orgasm? Would you be thrilled or disappointed? What if hell was never-ending MSU blowout on the road in Go Blow Cereal Bowl Stadium?
Yeah.
Have we been on too long? Is the show going too long? Next one from Hans. Is a good donut better than a good column?
Always. It's shorter too. I would take the high
You
of
don't
a
have
good
to pay
donut.
$9.99 a month for a donut. Jesus.
That's a good point.
Jake Hawkins. Where do you see Kenneth Walker getting drafted, and what do you think is the best case scenario? I think if he's available at pick 57 in the second round, the Buffalo Bills should take him with no question.
Yeah, I've seen him as a second-round guy, early day 2 guy, and I think there's a chance he'll be the first running back taken. He would fit in, to me, a cold weather climate, a guy who can do everything but is a tough runner. I think he'd fit in Buffalo. He'd fit a lot of places. I think he'll be a starting running back in the NFL. I think he's that good.
Next one from Jake. With the news announced earlier this week regarding the Lions and City of Detroit, are you going to tune into Hard Knocks this August, and are you going to be in Detroit for the 2024 NFL Draft?
I think there's a chance that at least Jason's at the draft. Who knows? Maybe we'll do the show live from the draft. Probably not. But
Radio Row
on the. But
Lions
no,
have number one pick.
I will watch I will watch Hard Knocks for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're not going to watch it.
Right.
I mean, I watch it some years, but with the Lions in it, I mean, that'll be
you
something.
watch a train wreck, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you watch a car accident.
And it'll be fun. It'll be what day does that usually come on? Is it on Friday? I forget what day that comes out on HBO.
No idea.
But anyway, the next show we'll talk about it every week. So of course we'll be watching it.
Take notes. Jake Hawkins. I've read that MSU's offensive line depth is pretty thin during spring practice. With that in mind, do you think offensive line coach Chris Kapilovich has a decent amount of pressure on him, especially since Tucker gave a good counter offer to stop him from joining Lincoln Riley at USC?
I think what Tucker knows is he's got a good coach there. And what's happening now is, I don't think there's pressure on him. He's got a group he's got to develop in the next year or two. And if they can do it ahead of, if they can be decent this year, great. I think they know they got the right guy there. They're very sure of it throughout the athletic department at the top, and with Tucker, that's why they're paying him the way they are. And if it doesn't happen, it's probably not on him. That's still a position that you got to develop, that you got to recruit. But he is one coach that I am very confident that Mel Tucker believes he has the right guy.
Next one from the Hawk. Do you think Izzo will successfully land a stud forward or center in the transfer portal? Any names you've heard that we should keep our eye on?
Yeah, you see, there are a couple guys they've reached out to that I'm aware of, but not actually. They haven't been centers largely. They've been. I do think they will go after some guys. I think they already are very aware of that. I think you're going to see them try to add a wing too, and they think they're a little thin there. My guess is they're going to try to add 2, and I think we'll have a better sense of names in the next week.
Lastly, from Jake. Do you think Ford Field will ever host another Final Four?
I hope not. And I only say this.
That's personal.
I like to travel to not the cooler cities. I like Detroit, but to different places that aren't so close. And frankly, it was an awful sight line. Like it just wasn't. Some of these stadiums, the newer ones, are built better for hoops, and the way they did it at Ford Field, maybe you could put the court differently. It was not a great place. Like Indy is built with hoops in mind, and Ford Field did not have that.
So take yourself out of it. Will they host another Final Four?
I can't remember if there were anything that people didn't like. I think the city is capable of it, and I think things otherwise went off okay. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it at some point. No, I would think they absolutely might. It is good to be back, man. That was fun. Even it got weird at the end. And if anybody was offended, apologize. Just forget the last 5 minutes there.
Stop apologizing.
Yeah. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Place your orders today. 2 locations, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and Williamson. Thanks to Skymint. Go to skymint.com for location information and specials. It'll get you through the flu. It'll make your life better in so many different ways. Thanks to Firekeepers, iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download it today. Play the games with us. Get on the Cade Cunningham line. Get on the lines this week. Get on Kansas. Get on the Premier League things. Go to Midtown Brewing Company for lunch. You'll love it. You'll love their expanded menu. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.